Chapter 160. Core Transformation Stage. Sensing Luo Ao's powerful aura that had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. Bianhong's face suddenly turned as pale as a sheet, and his pupils that had shrunk to the size of a needlepoint were filled with panic. Shilan's direct disciples and the surrounding onlookers were equally shocked. No one had expected Luo Ao to break through to the core transformation stage. From the beginning, Luo Ao had been playing with Bianhong like a cat toying with a mouse. He had been waiting for this moment. Hee, I'm done playing with you. A smug and contemptuous smile appeared on Luo Ao's face. Powerful true qi swept out like a mountain. Luo Ao clasped his palms together, and an incomparably surging cyan light quickly converged towards the center. A cyan sword shadow then transformed into a cyan sword. Great Luo illusory sword art. Buzz. A piercingly cold aura shook the airflow in all directions, and the pressure was comparable to the attack of a mountain. Bianhong, be careful. Lu Yu, He Qing Yuan, and the others' expressions changed. Bianhong similarly turned pale with fright, and besides a shock, he pushed out his palms, causing his powerful true essence to instantly condense into a golden seal before his hands. The golden seal was so solid that it seemed material, and the violent and uneasy energy fluctuations it emitted caused even space to faintly tremble without end. Mountain-splitting earth seal? Bianhong shouted angrily, and his gloomy face was exceptionally fierce. At this moment, he was really angry to the extreme. He felt as if he was being played with, and he couldn't wait to smash the hateful bastard in front of him into pieces. However, there was an essential gap between the elemental opening stage and the core transformation stage. Bang! With a loud bang, the green sword shadow collided with the golden seal, and an incomparably violent force directly spread out in all directions from between the two. The powerful shockwave rolled up the dust and sand on the ground, and the ground under everyone's feet shook uneasily. Gotcha! Following that, cracks began to appear on the golden seal. Bianhong's pupils suddenly trembled. With a loud bang, the golden seal was directly shattered on the spot, and an unstoppable power surged out. In the next moment, the green sword shadow's attack did not weaken, and it hit Bianhong's chest. Bang! A circle of scattered, true, inner energy wantonly leaked out. Bianhong's body shook violently, and the clothes on his chest were blasted into pieces. The powerful attack surged into his body, displacing his internal organs and causing his qi and blood to surge. A large mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth, and his entire body fell from the wooden stake array. Senior brother Bianhong, Wu Zhe, and his companions were startled and hurriedly rushed forward to catch him. However, as soon as it came into contact with Bianhong, it was like a mountain was flying towards him, and the violent might of the force was like a torrent that had broken through a dam, and it was impossible to resist. Wu Zhe and the other young man were directly brought back by Bianhong. Their feet were sliding along the ground, and the soles of their feet were burning from the friction. Damn it, the expressions of He Qing, Lu Yu, and the others, who were not far away, changed drastically. The strength of a core transformation realm martial artist was actually this powerful. Just as Bianhong, Wu Zhe, and the others were about to fall to the ground with heavy injuries, a loud boom rang out. The three of them suddenly stopped in their tracks. At the same time, the ground beneath their feet suddenly split open with over 10 cracks that were 5 to 6 meters long. Dust flew everywhere, and mud and stones flew everywhere. Everyone present was stunned. What was going on? Then, everyone present noticed that there was actually a young figure standing behind Bianhong, Wu Zhe, and the others. That is, senior brother Chu Hen, Li Hui, Zhou Lu, and the others' eyes lit up. The whole audience was in an uproar, and everyone was shocked. They saw Chu Hen's hands supporting Wu Zhe's and the other young man's backs, and the two of them caught Bianhong. Chu Hen actually caught all three of them by himself. If it was just that, it would not be a big deal. However, The powerful force just now was caused by Luo Ao, who was at the core transformation realm. While Chu Hen caught the three of them, he was not even able to take half a step back. Are you all right? Lu Yu, He Qing, Li Hui, and the others also came to the front of the few people. Chu Hen shook his head slightly, and his handsome face did not show any unusual expression. On the contrary, Wu Zhe and Bian Hong were stunned. They never thought that the person who helped them would be Chu Hen. After all, everyone knew that Bian Hong and Wu Zhe had always been prejudiced against Chu Hen, and no one expected that he would repay evil with good. This was especially true for Wu Zhe, who had previously fought with Chu Hongdou. At this moment, he was feeling a little ashamed. Thank you. Wu Zhe lowered his head and thanked Huang Xiaolong awkwardly. Chu Hen smiled and did not say much. Then, they helped the weak Bian Hong back to teacher Shilan's side. I'm sorry, senior brother Bian Hong. I used too much force and did not control my strength well. Sorry. A sarcastic laughter came from the wooden stake array. Luo Ao's words were not apologetic at all. Lu Yu, He Qingyan, and the others were annoyed, and their faces were gloomy and angry. I wonder who is going to fight next? Luo Ao stood on the wooden stake array, looking down at Shilan and the others in front of him with eyes full of arrogance. This was a blatant provocation. On the other side, core teacher Yu, he still had a happy expression on his face. He was proud of being able to teach a genius like Luo Ao. He was waiting for this moment. He wanted to tell everyone that he was the leader of the core team of Tensei Prefecture. The square was full of discussions and whispers. I didn't expect senior brother Luo Ao to break through to the core transformation stage. Amazing. There are very few students in our Tensei Prefecture, and the number of students who have reached the core transformation stage can be counted on one hand. Senior brother Luo Ao has really made the school proud. We have another strong competitor in the school's martial arts competition in 2 months. While the surrounding people were amazed by Luo Ao, the situation of Shilan's team became particularly awkward. Apart from the few monstrous geniuses who were outside, only Bian Hong and Wu Zhe had the highest cultivation level. Now that even they've been defeated, who else could be Luo Ao's opponent? What should they do next? Luo Ao's body was full of provocation. No one dares to fight? Everyone was silent, and their brows were tightly knitted. However, Shilan was particularly calm, as if in her opinion, it didn't matter who won or lost this battle. You win. These simple words did not contain the slightest emotional fluctuation. Shilan seemed to have no intention of continuing to fight. Before her voice died away, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and 2 cold lights flashed in his dark pupils. He immediately stepped forward without hesitation. Swoosh! Suddenly, the sound of rushing wind followed, and a strong gust of air engulfed the stage. Everyone's heart was slightly startled. A swift and fierce figure rushed ahead of Chu Hen and leapt onto the wooden stake formation. This figure came from outside the square, and he was travel-worn, but his powerful aura attracted the attention of everyone present. Hey, Luo Ao, you're really arrogant. Why are you showing off here when we're not in the school? Boom. In an instant, everyone was shocked. Chapter 161. Hey, Luo Ao, you're really arrogant. What are you doing here when we're not in the academy? A voice full of contempt and disdain suddenly spread to everyone's ears. In an instant, everyone present was shocked. The eyes of Lu Yu, He Qingyan, Bian Hong, and the others lit up as they looked at the young figure that had flashed and landed on the wooden pillar. He was travel-worn, and he seemed as if he had just returned from outside. However, the powerful aura within his body caused everyone to be surprised. Senior brother Chengya, you're back. Lu Yu and the others shouted in surprise. Chengya was a genius student in instructor Shilan's team. He had gone to the outside world to cultivate as a new student this year, but no one expected him to suddenly return at this time. However, for the students in Shilan's team who were in an awkward situation at the moment, Chengya's return was like a timely rain. Chengya did not immediately respond to Lu Yu and the others. He looked at Luo Ao in front of him with a playful expression. Please. Hey, Luo Ao also responded with a frivolous sneer. Chengya, it seems that you're not qualified to stand here and stand out. With your level, how dare you put on an act here? Everyone in the surroundings frowned slightly. Everyone knew what Luo Ao meant. Even though the aura Changyu emitted was strong, it seemed to be a little bit away from the core transformation stage. His cultivation was probably halfway into the core transformation stage, but he hadn't completely reached this level. Oof. Changyu sneered, disapproving of Luo Ao's words. Why don't you give it a try? Buzz. A surging aura was constantly released from Chunya's body, and a cold, murderous aura swept across the field. The surrounding people were secretly surprised. This kind of aura that was full of violent aura could only be possessed by people who had experienced many battles in the outside world. Sometimes high-intensity combat experience could make up for the small gap between the realms. In this way, this battle would be a real fight. Senior brother Cheng Yu will win. Senior brother Luo Ao, crush him. Let them see that our instructor Yu Yi's team is one of the 3 strongest teams. The battle was about to begin. Wait, right at this moment, a thunderous voice suddenly exploded from the back of the Maple Forest State Plaza. Everyone present felt a sharp pain in their eardrums. In the next instant, a strong gust of air whizzed over, and everyone's expression changed drastically. Under the surprised gazes of the crowd, a young man with a dignified appearance leaped over while shrouded in a thick layer of true inner force. This was a high-spirited and extraordinarily handsome young man. His temperament was extraordinary, and his demeanor was elegant. The aura he exuded caused countless people present to feel an invisible pressure. Senior Marshal Brother Ji Xian. It's Senior Marshal Brother Ji Xian. An excited shout came from the crowd. Boom! In an instant, the entire Maple Forest State Plaza was in an unprecedented uproar. Countless people revealed unconcealable admiration in their eyes. Ji Xian was ranked first on the Star Branch leaderboard and was also the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture. So this is Senior Brother Ji Xian. Zhou Lu was a little excited. In the past, she had only heard of Ji Xian's name, but had never seen Ji Xian in person. Naturally, she was excited. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face revealed a little surprise. The strong wind swept away the fallen leaves and sand on the ground. Ji Xian's movement technique was elegant, but he did not touch the ground. He glided through the air for dozens of meters and landed on the wooden stake array. His otherworldly and carefree demeanor was fully displayed. Most of the people present could not help but be subdued by the invisible temperament he exuded. Ha! Senior Marshal Brother Ji Xian is back. That's great. Congratulations on your return, Senior Marshal Brother Ji Xian. As the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, Ji Xian's popularity was absolutely unquestionable. All kinds of cheers immediately broke out, and Luo Ao's side was directly suppressed. Minter. Ji Xian first looked back at Xilan, his handsome face full of a gentle smile. Xilan nodded slightly, and her red lips parted slightly. Welcome back. First it was Chengya, and now it was Ji Xian. The return of these 2 geniuses greatly boosted the morale of Xilan's team. Yu Yi, on the other hand, was frowning, his expression uncertain. Anyone could sense that Ji Xian's invisible aura was many times stronger than Luo Ao's. Senior Marshal Brother Ji Xian, this kind of small character, I can handle it. Why bother you to do it yourself? Chengya smiled faintly, his eyes full of disdain for Luo Ao. Ji Xian raised his eyebrows slightly and replied with great interest. Since this junior martial brother Luo Ao is the strongest student under Mentor Yu Yi, then Mentor Xilan's team should naturally let me fight. This is fair, don't you think? The strongest student. No one present disagreed with Ji Xian's words. Not to mention Mentor Xilan's team. Even if Ji Xian said that he was the strongest in Tensei Prefecture, no one would refute it. If this sentence was said by others, it would be arrogant and conceited, but coming from Ji Xian, it was an unquestionable fact. Ha! Senior Marshal Brother Jixian is right, then I will go down first. Chengya smiled indifferently and immediately jumped down from the wooden stake array. The development of things was more and more beyond everyone's expectations. Minter Yuyi's team, which had the upper hand just now, was in a particularly awkward situation in an instant, unable to advance or retreat. Junior Marshal Brother Luo, Ao, your face doesn't look very good. Ji Xian smiled playfully. Luo, Ao frowned, clenched his fists, and shouted in a deep voice, "Humph, Ji Xian, don't be too proud. Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" "Ha ha ha ha. I didn't say that. Let's decide the winner in one move." "What do you think? Decide the winner in one move?" The hearts of everyone went cold because this was truly a form of extreme contempt. Luo Ao's eyes were about to spit fire. His face darkened, and a surging true inner force burst out of his body. "As you wish." Rumble, there was a thunderous momentum in the air, and the powerful power of the core transformation stage poured out from his body without reservation, and a green light spread in all directions like a stormy sea. The airflow in the square suddenly accelerated. Luo Ao's eyes were full of ruthlessness, and endless true inner force rotated rapidly in front of him, stirring up waves in all directions. Then, an illusory green sword shadow gradually turned from transparent to incomparably solid, and an incomparably strong, murderous aura caused the surrounding space to fall into a slight tremor. It was the great Luo illusory sword art again. The expressions of everyone in the square became extremely solemn. Compared to the sword that defeated Bianhong just now, the fluctuation of the power produced at this moment was more than 10 times stronger. Ji Xian, you underestimate me too much. You'll pay a painful price." "Huh?" A playful smile appeared at the corner of Ji Xian's mouth, and he shook his head and said, "I did not underestimate you, because you are not even qualified to enter my eyes." Arrogance, absolute arrogance. In the next moment, a powerful silver light rose from Ji Xian's body, accompanied by an astonishing and boundless momentum. A pair of illusory and transparent thin wings actually appeared on Ji Xian's back. That is, everyone present widened their eyes, only to see the pair of thin wings flickering with silver light, flowing with light. Then, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Ji Xian's figure actually left the wooden stake under his feet and instantly flew more than 30 meters into the air. This, true inner force wings? F***CK, Senior Brother Ji Xian, is too freaking monstrous. At this moment, everyone in the square was shocked, and there was no one who was not shocked. Even Chu Hen's pupils could not help but shrink, and there was a look of surprise on his face. It was common knowledge that on the path of martial Dao, only those who had broken through to the void-piercing stage could fly in the air and not be restrained by gravity. However, before reaching the void-piercing stage, core transformation stage experts could try to use true inner force wings to achieve the effect of staying in the air for a short period of time. True inner force wings consumed a lot of energy, and the time one could stay in the air was very short. Most importantly, one's strength must reach the late stage of the core transformation stage. In other words, one's cultivation base must be at least the 5th level core transformation stage. In other words, Ji Xian's cultivation base had already reached the 5th level core transformation stage. Oh my god! As expected of the number 1 genius in our Tensei prefecture, Senior Brother Ji Xian is really amazing. Victory, Senior Brother Ji Xian. One was at the 5th level core transformation stage, and the other was at the 1st level core transformation stage. There was no suspense in this battle at all. Yu Yi's face had long since turned ashen. Previously, Shilan had never revealed Ji Xian's true cultivation, so everyone had assumed that Ji Xian was at most at the 2nd or 3rd level. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that Ji Xian was so far ahead of all the other geniuses in the academy. Looking at Ji Xian, who had flashed high up in the sky, Luo Ao's heart trembled. How is this like riding a tiger and being unable to back down? It's like falling into a tiger's pit. However, The arrow was already on the bowstring, and it had to be released. Luo Ao gritted his teeth and gathered all his strength on the green sword shadow in front of him. The powerful and surging aura attracted the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Buzz, a bright green light bloomed, and the space faintly trembled. Luo Ao pushed out both palms with all his strength, and the green sword shadow flew like an aurora, sweeping towards Ji Xian, who was above him with a shocking killing intent. Great Luo, illusory sword art kill. The biting cold power was extremely strong, and the attack that gathered all of Luo Ao's strength was unusually strong. However, there was only a strong disdain on Ji Xian's face. He looked down condescendingly, and a wisp of silver light condensed on his right finger like a spirit snake. The extremely restless energy fluctuation was like the magma brewing in the belly of a volcano. Ji Xian waved his wrist downwards, and a silver beam of light fell down from the sky like a lightning beam. With a shocking momentum, it met the green sword shadow that was flying towards him. Chapter 162. The powerful and surging energy stirred up the airflow in all directions, and the air was filled with waves under the shocked gazes of everyone on the maple forest stake square. Ji Xian waved his hand downwards, and a silver beam of light swept out from his fingertips. The extremely violent energy wave suppressed the whole place, like a lightning beam falling from the sky, and with a shocking momentum, it collided with the green sword shadow that was flying towards him at an altitude of about 20 meters. Boom! The confrontation between two monstrous geniuses at the core transformation stage caused the sky to darken and the earth to dim. The powerful shock wave shook the surroundings, and a bright halo suddenly swayed above the wooden stake array, spreading infinitely like ripples on the surface of the water. Everyone on the sidelines was shaken by this powerful shock wave and was forced to retreat. Dead branches and leaves were swept away, and a sudden gust of wind blew, whistling through the whole place. Bang! In the next moment, Luo Ao's strongest attack was directly suppressed, and the solid green sword shadow was instantly shattered, bursting into a ball of scattered true essence like tofu dregs. Immediately after, the silver beam of light did not reduce its offensive power, and directly slashed down on Luo Ao's head. Luo Ao's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and his face was filled with a strong sense of horror. Boom! A violent explosion once again sounded in everyone's ears, and the incomparably surging energy wave was completely vented on Luo Ao's body, and the terrifying power was comparable to the attack of a mountain. Along with a large mouthful of blood, Luo Ao directly flew out of the wooden stake array and fell heavily to the ground. Senior brother Luo Ao. Several students from Yu Yi's team hurriedly rushed up to check on Luo Ao's situation, only to see that Luo Ao did not have the slightest bit of his previous high-spirited appearance. His whole body was covered in blood, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. One move to decide the outcome. It was better to say that he was defeated in one move. In an instant, everyone's faces revealed a strong sense of horror and fear. Even Chu Hen could not help but secretly shake his head. Sure enough, he was worthy of being the number one on the Star Branch list. With such strength, even among the many monstrous geniuses in the entire Imperial City, he was still among the top. From start to finish, it only took about 10 seconds for the battle to end. The silver wings behind Ji Xian also dissipated, and he steadily landed on the ground. You can't even withstand a single blow. These 4 simple words were like a resounding slap to the faces of Yu Yi and the others. It was only at this moment that everyone realized how big the gap between Yu Yi's team and Shilan's team was. Good, very good. Yu Yi's entire face was livid with anger. He clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. He suppressed the anger in his heart and shouted in a deep voice, "Let's go! Ha ha ha! Senior brother Ji Xian is bullying people the moment he returns?" A burst of hearty laughter came from the back of the square. Everyone was startled at first, Then they subconsciously looked in that direction, only to see a bright and energetic young figure sitting on a branch of a big maple tree at the back of the square. He was leaning against a tree trunk with a blade of grass dangling from his mouth. He had a frivolous and carefree temperament. Senior brother Xiao Yin? Everyone's eyes lit up. Senior brother Xiao Yin, you've returned as well? A commotion broke out in the square again. Xiao Yin was a genius ranked second on the Star Branch ranking. His direct mentor was Song Chung Lai, who was known as the Devil Lion. Haha, hello, junior brothers and sisters. Xiao Yin grinned and waved his hand to greet everyone. His bright and hearty smile was very amiable. Compared to Ji Xian, Xiao Yin was the opposite type. The former was more aloof and arrogant, while Xiao Yin's character was similar to Song Chung Lai. He was rough with a fine side. Chengya, Ji Xian, Xiao Yin. These geniuses who were traveling outside returned one after another, reminding everyone that the time of the Academy martial competition was getting closer and closer. At that time, battles between dragons and tigers would play out in the entire city. Everyone can clearly see whether it's bullying or not. Ji Xian lifted his gaze slightly and looked at Xiao Yin with interest. But if you don't like it, we can have a spar. I don't have the leisure to fight with you, great genius Ji Xian. I'm just saying casually, don't take it to heart. Up to you. Ji Xian smiled indifferently and didn't say anything further. Subsequently, he flashed down from the wooden stake formation and walked toward Shilan and the others. Lu Yu, He Qingyan, Chengya, and the others surrounded him. Senior brother Ji Xian, I thought you'd be a month late. Lu Yu said, Haha, I broke through to the 5th level of the core transformation stage early while I was outside, so I came back early. Ji Xian casually replied, and his gaze turned toward Shilan. Teacher, have you been well these days? Shilan's beautiful eyes spun as she glanced sideways at the nearby Chu Hen, and her red lips parted slightly as she spoke with a calm tone. I've been quite well. This slight movement of hers caused Ji Xian to be stunned, and he turned his gaze to look at Chu Hen as well. He glanced sideways and said, This ought to be teacher's new student, Chu Hen, right? I've heard about you on the way here. Even someone like Wei Qing Fan was defeated by you. It's really rare. Ji Xian's tone was relatively calm. It gave off a gentle feeling. However, when Chu Hen met Ji Xian's gaze, he sensed an indescribable sharpness in the depths of Ji Xian's calm gaze. This kind of sharpness made Chu Hen feel extremely uncomfortable. However, Chu Hen did not reveal his inner feelings. He smiled politely and said, Senior brother Ji Xian, you're overpraising me. Most of the rumors outside are exaggerated. Senior brother, you don't have to take it seriously. Haha, I can still distinguish between true and false. Junior brother Chu Hen, you're so capable at such a young age. In the future, under teacher Shilan's guidance, I believe it won't take long for you to achieve great things. The conversation between the two of them caused the people around them to feel even more baffled. It seemed like Ji Xian had never praised someone like this before. Moreover, apart from being polite, there was an indescribable feeling. Was this the first time the two of them met? Could it be that they'd known each other before? At the side, Chengya crossed his arms in front of him with an interested expression. Today's cultivation lesson ends here. You can cultivate on your own. Shilan said indifferently. Yes, teacher. Everyone nodded and prepared to pack up and disperse. Practice well, Shilan casually said to Chu Hen as she turned to leave. Chu Hen smiled and nodded. I understand. Chapter 163. The storm caused by the maple forest pile was easily resolved with Ji Xian's return. His strength was at the 5th stage of the core transformation realm, and he lived up to his reputation as the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture. Maple Forest. In the depths of the uninhabited maple forest, fiery red maple leaves danced in the sky, and the air was filled with layers and layers of vigorous waves. A handsome young man with a determined gaze was brandishing a black saber in his hand. It was a saber with a unique appearance, but did not lose its might. The black saber's body was engraved with a pattern that looked like the fangs of a ferocious beast. There were 9 sharp teeth on the back of the saber, giving off a sharp aura. During the past 3 months, Chu Hen would practice his saber skills for 4 hours every afternoon. Sometimes, Shilon would give him pointers from the side as well. He would practice his spear skills in the morning, study his saber skills in the afternoon, and cultivate his runes and Reiki energy at night. During the past 3 months, Chu Hen repeated the same things every day. There was naturally some boredom, but feeling the increase in power in all aspects, Chu Hen was also extremely happy. Buzz! Swish! The limitless fong slashed continuously in the air, setting off layers and layers of saber waves. Any maple leaves that were within 10 meters of Chu Hen were directly crushed by the domineering saber ray. The surging saber aura lingered around Chu Hen, and neat ravines appeared on the ground. Chu Hen was only practicing the basic saber skills. In Shilan's words, everything should start from the most basic. Only by laying a solid foundation would the future be easier. Wind-splitting slash. Chu Hen shouted and held the saber's hilt with both hands. The limitless Fong's body shone with a black radiance, and with a slash, a saber ray that was more than 10 meters wide struck a maple tree in front of him with an unstoppable aura. Bang! Wood splinters flew in all directions, and the shock waves spread out. The tree was directly split in half. On the ground between the two, a deep and narrow ravine appeared next to Chu Hen's feet. Phew! Chu Hen let out a deep breath, and the aura around his body retracted. Then he narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Don't be sneaky. Since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" Hee buzz. Accompanied by a frivolous sneer, a violent gust of wind swept towards Chu Hen. The surging pressure was like a raging torrent. A beam of blue light swept out and flew straight towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen's pupils reflected the incoming stream of light, but he remained motionless. Bang! Dirt flew everywhere and rocks flew everywhere. At Chu Hen's feet, there was once again a ravine that was over 10 meters wide on the ground. Faint white smoke fluttered on the surface of the renovated soil. Chu Hen's face couldn't help but turn cold. Then, a young man with a teasing smile slowly walked out from behind a maple tree. Chu Hen frowned slightly and said coldly, "It's you." To Chu Hen's surprise, the person who came was Chengya. "Someone asked me to tell you." Chengya squinted at Chu Hen and said casually, "It's better for you to stay away from Mentor Shilon, especially in private. Don't stay with her." Stay away from Mentor Shilon? Chu Hen couldn't help but smile frivolously. "Did Ji Xian ask you to come?" "Hee, it's good that you know." "I see." Chu Hen suddenly understood. No wonder Ji Xian looked at him strangely before. It turned out that the problem was here. It turned out that Ji Xian had always had a crush on Shilon. Of course, this was not strange. It was too normal. There were many people who liked Shilon, so many that it was impossible to count them. Although Shilon was a core mentor in Tensei Prefecture, she was not much older than the students. Not to mention that there was no such thing. Even if there was, it was at most a love between an older sister and a younger brother. Ji Xian wanted to compete for Chu Hen's favor. It was not wrong to say that he wanted to compete with Mentor Shilon. However, Chu Hen didn't care at all. He replied indifferently, "Don't put your self-righteous thoughts on me. I'm not interested in competing with him for favor in front of Mentor Shilon. You can say whatever you want. However, I heard a few of them say that Teacher Shilon thinks very highly of you. Originally, her lessons were held once every 5 days, but because of you, it has become once every 2 days. Also, I heard that the saber in your hand was given to you by Mentor Shilon." Chu Hen sneered. "You've heard quite a lot, but what does this have to do with you?" Chu Hen really couldn't stand Chengya's arrogant and conceited attitude, especially when the other party didn't say anything and directly gave Chu Hen a show of strength. This made Chu Hen unable to bring up the slightest bit of good attitude and tone. You are indeed arrogant and conceited enough. However, I must remind you that those who go against senior brother Ji Xian in the Heavenly Star Martial House will not have a good ending. Chengya's tone had already become much colder. At the same time, a powerful aura was released from his body and suppressed Chu Hen. "Do you know what kind of people I hate the most?" Chu Hen was fearless. His deep eyes revealed a cold gleam. The first kind is self-righteous and doesn't know how to write the word respect. The second kind is people who rely on their master's power. Coincidentally, you have both of them. You're courting death. Chungya's expression instantly became incomparably ashen. A surging aura swept out, causing a layer of dried branches and leaves on the ground to be lifted up. In the next instant, a ball of blue light shot out from Chungya's body and rushed towards Chu-Hen. In the process of moving at high speed, the blue light instantly transformed into the shadow of a ferocious wolf. It was aggressive and mighty. Chu-Hen's eyes turned cold. With a flick of his wrist, a cold gleam flickered and the limitless fang swallowed and spat out a dense black glow. The momentum rose and the saber fell. Bang! The frightening blade, light, abruptly chopped the blue wolf phantom into pieces, and the violent shockwave spread for dozens of meters. The surrounding maple tree branches and leaves rustled and fell. The air was filled with the sound of waves, and many fallen leaves and branches on the ground were crushed into powder. Without waiting for Chungya to launch another attack, Chu-Hen held his saber diagonally, and an awe-inspiring, domineering aura arose. If you dare to move again, I'll make sure your blood splatters on the spot. You! Chungya's face changed. He saw a talisman already appeared in Chu-Hen's other hand. An obscure and violent extreme power was released from it. Don't tell me you only know how to rely on the power of a high-grade talisman? That's still better than you relying on your master's power. Chu-Hen ridiculed bluntly. Get out of my sight immediately. Chungya's face changed again and again. It was unusually unsightly. Originally, with his half-step core transformation stage cultivation, it was simply a piece of cake for him to bully Chu-Hen. However, the power of a high-grade talisman did not allow him to ignore it. You asked for it. When the time comes and you can't survive in Tensei Prefecture, don't blame me for not reminding you. Chungya fiercely left behind a ruthless remark. He swung his sleeves angrily and turned to leave. Looking at the other party's disappearing figure in the forest, Chu-Hen's face was similarly unsightly. He did not intend to cause trouble, but he was not afraid of trouble. Even if Ji Xian was the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, as long as he bullied him, Chu-Hen would definitely not hesitate to give the Devil Punisher spear away. Half an hour later, when Chu-Hen returned to his residence, Mu Feng and Lei Zhun were not in the room. Recently, the two of them had been getting along very well. They were as close as real brothers. Of course, Lei Zhun was still rather courteous towards Chu-Hen. He was not like Mu Feng, who would spout nonsense at the drop of a hat. In the room, Chu-Hen began to repeat his previous cultivation. He released Reiki energy and merged his divine sense into his Naiwan palace. In the dim space, a nearly 2-meter-tall sapling shone with dazzling silver and golden light. Compared to the Dao seed that had just sprouted 3 months ago, the Dao seed had now grown into a street tree. The strength of the Reiki energy was more than 10 times stronger than it was at the beginning. Now, Chu-Hen's inscriptionist realm had reached the 9th grade elementary inscriptionist realm. He was only 1 step away from the intermediate inscriptionist realm. Although it was only 1 step away, it was not easy to cross this step. However, once he entered the intermediate inscriptionist realm, the street tree could grow to more than 10 meters, and the strength of the Reiki energy would also increase greatly. Buzz! Immediately, Chu-Hen raised his hands and placed his palms against each other. Traces of true primordial energy flowed out like a trickle and quickly gathered together, transforming into a crystal-clear rune. This rune was fiery red and bright like glass. It emitted an extremely hot wave of air. This rune was the Raging Fire Rune. In the past 3 months, Chu-Hen had never slacked on his study of the rune. Then, with a thought, the Raging Fire sigil dissipated, and another white sigil faintly appeared. Following that, Chu-Hen successfully condensed a few more runes one after another. After 3 months of nonstop cultivation, the effect was obvious. Chi, Chi. The silver heavenly thunder rune shone with a beautiful arc lightning arcs lingered on Chu-Hen's palm, emitting an active and manic power. Looking at the heavenly thunder rune in front of him, Chu Hen could not help but think of what Changya had said just now. He could only rely on the power of the advanced spiritual talisman. Humph! Even if I don't use the advanced spiritual talisman, why should I be afraid of you? Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He did not place Changya in his heart, but Ji Xian's words caused Chu Hen to have no choice but to treat them seriously. Immediately, Chu Hen did not think about anything else. The true primordial energy in his palm changed, and the spirit-gathering rune was condensed. In an instant, the endless spiritual power of heaven and earth surged into Chu Hen's body. At the same time, 2 upper-grade primordial crystals appeared in his palms. The rich spiritual power surged and divided into 2 parts. One went to the Sea of Qi in his dantian, and the other to the Mud Pill Palace in his brain, the all-school martial arts competition. There were still 2 months left. Wei Qing Fan, Chapter 164. Western District of Tensei Prefecture. There was a wide square at the center of a lake here, and flowing water surrounded the square. The broad and majestic arch bridge crossed the river from the south that was more than 10 meters wide and reached the square at the center of the lake. In the morning, Chu Hen accompanied Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qing Yuan, and the others to this square. This was the mission that Shilan had given them yesterday, and they had to defeat at least 20 opponents in the illusory killing formation. This is my first time coming to the illusory killing formation. Senior brother Qing Yuan, what is it like inside the formation? Li Hui was slightly expectant and slightly nervous. He Qing Yuan smiled and replied, the illusory killing formation is a spirit formation that the Tensei Prefecture invited 3 high-level inscriptionists from the Imperial City to jointly set up. In order to build this formation, the Academy spent a huge amount of resources and financial resources. Just the high-grade origin crystal stones alone are more than 5 million. What? 5 million high-grade origin crystal stones? Li Hui could not help but gasp. Even Chu Hen could not help but narrow his eyes, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. That's right. In addition to other precious materials, the total cost of this illusory killing formation is nearly 10 million high-grade origin crystal stones. He Qing Yuan sighed as well. When this illusory killing formation was built, the martial house was at its peak. Its purpose is to train the students' ability to fight and kill their enemies. When the illusory killing formation is activated, the students who are in the formation will enter an illusion. There will be all kinds of opponents in the illusion. The degree of reality is almost exactly the same as reality, just like fighting with an enemy in reality. Li Hui's eyes lit up, and then he asked, Senior brother Qing Yuan, since the Academy has such a good formation, why do we go to the Heaven Lake Mountain Range to train? We could just stay in the illusory killing formation and practice. You really think it's simple enough? Lu Yu rolled her eyes at him. No matter how real the illusion is, it's still an illusion. Although you will be injured in the illusory killing formation, you can choose to retreat when your life is in danger. But in reality, when you encounter a life-threatening situation, where should you retreat to? I understand, senior sister, Li Hui replied weakly. They couldn't help but smile at each other and shake their heads. I'm a little curious. Chu Hen, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Everyone looked at him in surprise. In its heyday, Tensei Prefecture was the top martial house in the imperial capital. How did it fall to such a state? Chu Hen voiced out the confusion in his heart. To be honest, the teachers of the Heavenly Star martial house weren't bad. Shilan, Shadowless, Song Chunglai, and so on, they didn't lack outstanding instructors. Not only that, but they also had the wooden stake array, the illusionary killing array, and other facilities. It was reasonable to say that even if they were suppressed by the other academies, it was impossible for them to be at the bottom. However, as soon as Chu Hen asked this question, everyone looked at each other as if they were looking at a monster, and all of them were astonished. What's wrong? Chu Hen felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by everyone. Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? Zhou Lu asked tentatively. What do you mean really or not? However, seeing the confusion on Chu Hen's face, Everyone looked at each other. Then, Zhou Lu said cautiously, "The one who really suppressed Tensei Prefecture wasn't the martial houses in the imperial capital, but the person with the highest authority in the Sacred Star dynasty." The person with the highest authority? The royal family? Chu Hen's pupils shrank. They didn't say anything, indicating that they agreed. "What's going on?" Zhou Lu pondered for a moment, hesitated, and still answered. Back then, Tensei Prefecture was prosperous, and countless geniuses gathered there. There was a young man named Gu Tong, who was as bright as a star. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the number one among the younger generation in the imperial capital. Gu Tong was extraordinarily talented and hardworking. However, the heavens were jealous of him. Gu Tong had a grudge with a person with a strong background. In a fit of rage, Gu Tong killed that person. After that person's family led people to Tensei Prefecture and asked Principal Jiang to hand him over. Principal Jiang was also a straightforward person. He thought that Gu Tong was innocent and refused to hand him over. In the end, the matter became bigger and bigger, and finally, it alerted the royal family. After many layers of connections, the royal family finally stood on the side of the family of the person who was killed and ordered Tensei Prefecture to hand over Gu Tong. Facing the pressure from the royal family, Principal Jiang still wanted to protect Gu Tong. Therefore, with the help of many of his good friends, he secretly sent Gu Tong out of the imperial capital. When Gu Tong escaped, the royal family naturally vented their anger on Tensei Prefecture. However, as there was no clear evidence to prove that Gu Tong was released by Principal Jiang, the royal family couldn't force a conviction. After all, Tensei Prefecture was like the sun at noon in the imperial capital at that time. However, one could imagine the result of going against the royal family. As a result, on the surface and in the shadows, all sorts of suppression came one after another. After several years, Tensei Prefecture had finally fallen to this state. After hearing Zhou Lu's account, Chu Hen also inwardly shook his head. Could the current sovereign be so unreasonable? The one in power today is not His Majesty the Emperor, but the Divine Empress, Zhou Lu. He Qingyuan directly shouted at her from the side. Zhou Lu shrunk her neck back, instantly realizing that she had spoken a little too much. He Qingyuan gazed at Chu Hen, Zhou Lu, and Li Hui, his tone still somewhat solemn. "For this or a matter, it's fine for us martial brothers and sisters to treat it as a joke. There's no need to delve too deeply into it." He Qingyuan was comparatively a rather wise and far-sighted person, and he also had a cautious personality. He knew what could be said and what couldn't be said in the capital. Zhou Lu was rather young and hadn't come into contact with many things, so her mouth was a little unrestrained. Chu Hen faintly smiled. "I understand, Senior Qingyuan. And let's go. Today is the time for the first round of the grand array of illusions and deaths to open." Immediately, everyone quickened their pace, crossed the arch bridge, and arrived at the square in the middle of the lake. The diameter of the square in the middle of the lake exceeded a kilometer, and the area could be considered rather vast. On the square, there was a high platform with stairs that gradually increased in height. The high platform's construction was especially beautiful, piled up with white jade. It was about 2 meters tall, and the platform's length and width exceeded 100 meters. It was in the shape of a square. On the square platform, there were 4 towering jade pillars. The jade pillars were located in each of the 4 corners, and each jade pillar was about 30 meters tall. Exquisite and complicated talismans were carved on them. Those 4 jade pillars are called spirit jade stones. They are used to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth for the operation of the grand array of illusions and deaths. The cost of each spirit jade stone exceeds 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystals. He Qingyuan explained to Chu Hen and the others to ease the awkward atmosphere. One spirit jade stone cost more than 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystals. Chu Hen instantly felt that he had become a real poor man again. It turned out that the more than 1,000 high-grade primal crystals he had were not even a fraction of the cost of a spirit jade stone. At this moment, 200 to 300 people had already gathered below the square platform. Every day, People who came here to wait to use the grand array of illusions and deaths would form a long line. For people who were in charge of the operation of the grand array of illusions and deaths stood below the steps. One of them was actually one of the senior instructors who led the team from Tianqi Mountain Range, Roshan. When they went to Tianqi Mountain Range for training, the core instructor, Shilan, led the team, and the two senior instructors, Mo and Roshan, assisted them. Later, because the team had to go to St. Bell City separately, Shilan ordered Roshan to bring the injured students and the students who were unwilling to go to St. Bell City back first. Why is Instructor Roshan here? Zhou Lu asked casually. The grand array of illusions and deaths is not an ordinary talisman array. When it is in operation, a senior instructor must be here to manage it. The senior instructors take turns to be on duty, Lu Yu explained. Chu Hen and the others nodded. The fact that a senior instructor was in charge of the array was enough to show that the grand array of illusions and deaths was unusual. Then, under He Qingyuan's lead, Chu Hen and the others did not line up at the back. Instead, they walked directly to the bottom of the steps at the front. Instructor Roshan, He Qingyuan said politely. You're here. Roshan smiled slightly. Instructor Shilan has already informed me. You can enter the array first. When the time is up, get ready to start. Thank you. Amidst the envious and noisy voices of the crowd, He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, Chu Hen, Li Hui, and Zhou Lu walked to the square platform first. Why did you cut the line? Even if you're instructor Shilan's student, you can't do this. Shut up. Don't you know that the core instructors can only recommend a few places every month? I really didn't know. Blame yourself for not being neat and tidy. You can't become a direct student of the core instructors. You're talking about me, but aren't you the same? There was some commotion in the crowd. There were many students who had to use the grand array of illusions and deaths every day. Over the course of a month, they could not even train in it once or twice. Therefore, the academy stipulated that outstanding students would be given lenient treatment. The core instructors were responsible for recommending places. Those who received the recommendation did not need to wait in line and could directly enter the grand array of illusions and deaths. Although this was unfair to ordinary students, there was no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. The strong were supported by others, while the weak were mediocre for life. This was an indisputable fact, no matter where it was. Following the others to the high platform, Chu Hen immediately felt an obscure energy fluctuation in the air. This fluctuation originated from the defensive level of the grand array of illusions and deaths. After all, the Academy had spent a huge amount of money to build this array. Its defensive capabilities must be perfect. Even the top experts of the void-piercing realm could not easily destroy this place. Carrying a bit of curiosity and faint excitement, Chu Hen's gaze swept over the jade spirit pillars that were separated in the four corners. When he saw the exquisite and mysterious glyphs on the jade spirit pillars, he could not help but be stunned. Chapter 165. These rune inscriptions are... Looking at the rune inscriptions carved on the four spiritual jade pillars, Chu Hen could not help but be stunned. With just a glance, he actually recognized all the rune inscriptions carved on it. What did each rune represent? What was its use? What kind of effect would be formed after they were arranged together? Chu Hen knew all of them with just a glance. If this matter were to spread out, many people would probably be shocked to death. One must know that this illusionary killing formation was jointly set up by three rather famous advanced rune masters in the imperial capital. The rune inscriptions on the four spiritual jade pillars were also carved by them. To ordinary people, the rune arrangement technique on it was definitely a secret that was not passed down. However, a new student from Tensei Prefecture could understand the meaning of this rune secret tome. How could people not be shocked? Of course, understanding it was one thing, but it was impossible for Chu Hen to condense and engrave these runes. At the very least, with Chu Hen's current standard as a rune master, he could only complete a basic rune arrangement. The knowledge that he had mastered naturally came from the content contained in the illusionary spirit bell's artifact spirit. Rumble. At this moment, a commotion came from below the stage. From the crowd that had parted, A gentle and elegant young girl with a beautiful face walked over with light steps. Bai Yue. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly. If Mufeng was here, he would probably be excited and infatuated with her. Bai Yue had an elegant and pure face, giving people a feeling that she was as gentle as water and as docile as a kitten. However, that was not the case. Under that gentle appearance, it was said that she had a very bad temper. Regarding this, Chu Hen could not verify it. However, from the love and hate in the eyes of the people around him, he could tell that this was not groundless. Bai Yue and tutor Roshan exchanged a few words before they stepped onto the stage of the illusionary killing formation. Senior Sister Yue. Teaching Yuan and the others greeted her politely. Bai Yue nodded slightly. After a slight gesture, she waited by the side alone. It was almost time for the array to open. The people who were queuing below began to go up the steps one after another under the guidance of Mentor Roshan. It is recommended that students whose cultivation base is lower than rank 3 of the elemental opening realm do not participate in the training of the illusionary killing formation. Roshan said as she made a simple note. All the students could not wait any longer, and their faces were filled with excitement. Soon, more than 50 people gathered on the stage. Every time the illusionary killing formation was activated, the number of people would be controlled between 50 to 60. Buzz. Wow. Senior brother Ji Xian is here. There's also senior apprentice brother Xiao Yin. I haven't seen them for a few months, but their auras have become so much stronger. Amidst the exclamations, everyone looked in 2 different directions. On one side was Ji Xian, who had an extraordinary temperament and a graceful demeanor. His handsome face caused many of the female students' hearts to flutter, causing them to reveal bashful expressions. Behind Ji Xian were Chengya, Bian Hong, Wu Zhe, and a few others. On the other side, Xiao Yin walked over alone. He had a carefree smile on his face, making him look very amiable. Mentor Roshan, is there still a seat? Xiao Yin smiled warmly. Roshan looked back at the people on the stage, then shook her head and said, at most, one more person can go up. One person? Xiao Yin spread his hands and shrugged. He said to Ji Xian, who was not far away, you have more people, so you should wait for the next round. Ji Xian smiled indifferently. What if I say no? Then what if I insist on this seat? Then you could try. Everyone present couldn't help but take a few steps back when they saw this. If they were to fight, they might be implicated as well. Of course, Mentor Roshan, who was in charge of management, would naturally not allow such a thing to happen. She hurriedly stopped the 2 of them and said, the 2 of you should stop fighting. The illusory killing formation is based on the overall standard of the students in the formation. If the 2 of you participate, I'm afraid that it will increase the difficulty of the formation. After this round, I will activate the illusory killing formation for the 2 of you alone. Activate the illusory killing formation for Ji Xian and Xiao Yin alone. Everyone shook their heads and sighed in admiration. Geniuses always enjoyed special privileges. With regards to Roshan's suggestion, none of the students present had any objections. Xiao Yin smiled. Then we'll do as Mentor Roshan says. A playful smile appeared on Ji Xian's face. Behind him, Chengya walked forward with a smile. Since that's the case, then leave the last seat to me. Roshan nodded and did not say anything else. Chengya immediately walked onto the stage and headed straight for He-Ching Yuan, Lu Yu, and the others. Since they were all direct disciples of Mentor Shilan, their relationship was naturally better than the others. Of course, not everyone was like that. Junior brother Chu Hen, we meet again, Chengya said with a strange smile. Chu Hen ignored it, as if he did not hear it. Chengya thought otherwise. Junior brother Chu Hen, in this illusory killing formation, there's no need to use those high-grade spirit talismans. You have to be careful. Thank you for your reminder, senior brother Chengya. I will keep it in mind. Chu Hen replied in an indifferent tone. Seeing the 2 of them like this, He Qingyan, Li Hui, and the others were all astonished. What was going on? The 2 of them had only known each other for a few days, so why were they at odds with each other? Before everyone could figure out what was going on, Mentor Roshan's voice sounded. Everyone is ready. The illusory killing formation is about to be activated. Since it's the first time some of you are participating in the illusory killing formations training, let me give you a brief introduction. Once the illusory killing formation is activated, all of you will fall into an illusion. Inside, you will encounter all sorts of opponents, including demonic beasts and humans. It's important to mention that you will also be injured in the illusion, and the injuries will be carried over to the real world. So, if your life is in danger or you can't hold on anymore, immediately retreat from the illusion. The way to retreat is very simple. Gather your true inner force in your glabella acupuncture point, and you'll be able to cut off the connection with the formation. Does anyone have any questions? No. Everyone answered in unison. Roshan nodded and immediately walked up to a 2-meter-tall stone tablet beside the stairs. The stone tablet was jade-colored, and it was also made of spirit jade. Exquisite and complicated patterns covered the surface of the tablet, and there was a circular groove in the center of the stone tablet. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, Roshan took out a golden round plate. The round plate had silver flowing lights flickering on it, and it was very gorgeous. This round plate was the key to activating the illusory killing formation. Roshan skillfully placed the round plate into the groove on the stone tablet. In the next instant, a strange energy wave was instantly released from the stone tablet. Silver flowing lights blossomed like lightning, and immediately after, the 4 spirit jade pillars on the 4 sides of the high platform also flashed with incomparably bright golden light. Hua! Many students below the stage had expressions of surprise on their faces. The 4 spirit jade pillars that were more than 30 meters tall were enveloped in golden light, and the mysterious talisman patterns on the pillars were rapidly lit up like lightning. It looked like these 4 spirit jade pillars were divine metals that originated from the heavenly palace. Rumble! An incomparably powerful aura swept the entire stage, and the crisscrossing talisman patterns emitted a brilliant light. In an instant, dense golden light rapidly gathered on the surface of the platform and enveloped the entire high platform. On the platform, Chu Hen, Zhou Lu, Li Hui, and the others were all incomparably shocked. Moreover, a brilliant talisman pattern appeared on the ground beneath their feet, and the talisman pattern practically spanned across the entire platform. Everyone on the platform could clearly feel a powerful and strange energy surging towards them. Buzz! A dazzling white light flashed, and the environment in front of everyone instantly underwent a huge change. What appeared in front of Chu Hen was a dusky space. In the distance, there were mountains, rivers, and even a city, but all of them were dim and hazy, and appeared to be in a strange and distorted state. The sky above their heads was shrouded by dark clouds, and a crescent moon emitted a gloomy red light. The bleak cold wind had an indescribable, bone-piercing chill. Not far from Chu Hen, Li Hui, He Qingyan, Zhou Lu, and the others were around 50 meters away from him. Everyone's faces were still filled with caution and solemnity. All of you, be careful. The enemy will appear very soon. He Qingyuan warned in a low voice. Whoosh! As he spoke, a sharp sword appeared in He Qingyuan's hand. Meanwhile, weapons appeared in the hands of Bai Yu, Lu Yu, Cheng Ya, and the others one after another. This, Chu Hen was startled at first, but he quickly understood. In this illusion, he could summon the weapons he normally used according to his own will. Demon Slayer. Chu Hen was just about to summon the Demon Slayer spear, but after a thought, he focused his mind, and a sharp black saber appeared in his hand. Buzz buzz! Not long after, a strange energy wave attacked them. A gray hazy shadow appeared in front of each of them. The shadow quickly solidified, and in the next instant, a ferocious demon beast appeared in front of everyone. Roar! Kill! The monstrous beast's roar and the crowd's battle cries immediately overlapped together. In front of Chu Hen was a 5-meter-tall violent bear. That raging aura, as well as the pungent stench emitted from its huge mouth, were exactly the same as in reality. Without saying anything, the violent bear directly pounced towards Chu Hen. Its powerful aura had reached the 6th level of the element opening realm. Chu Hen's eyes focused, and the black saber in his hand emitted a domineering, demonic flame like true yuan. He leaped, and the dazzling saber light was like a huge wave that crossed the horizon. Hiss! Chapter 166. On the square in the middle of the lake in the Southern District. At this moment, there were still many students coming to the square one after another, waiting in line to participate in the combat training in the illusionary killing array. Buzz on the high platform, for spiritual jade pillars stood at the four corners of the platform. They emitted a dazzling golden holy light as if they were four divine iron pillars. On the high platform, nearly 60 students from the Tensei Prefecture stood there motionlessly. Each of them had their eyes closed as if they were in a dream. Damn, it's getting boring waiting. So what if it's boring? If you're so capable, you can become a core instructor's direct disciple. There's no need to wait anymore. I wonder who killed the most enemies in this round of the illusionary killing array. Is there a need to ask? Of course, it's by Yuyue. Buzz. Whoosh. As soon as they finished speaking, a white light beam fell from the sky and enveloped a young girl on the high platform. Ha, see, I told you it's by Yuyue. Tisk, amazing. You're the only one who guessed it? The person that was enveloped by the silver light beam was by Yuyue. This meant that by Yuyue killed the most enemies in the illusionary killing array. Following that, a second white beam of light poured down, enveloping a young man within it. It's senior brother Chungya. Amazing. I heard that senior brother Chung has been training outside for a few months. He fought with demonic beasts every day and had a lot of combat experience. Although he's only a half-step core transformation realm, his combat strength is not any weaker than a true core transformation realm expert. The beam of white light that shone on Chungya's body was slightly lighter than the one around by Yuyue's body. This also meant that the number of enemies that Chungya had defeated was second only to Bai Yuyue. Buzz. Then, a third white light beam quickly condensed in the sky above the high platform like a cloud hovering above everyone's head. Guess who's the third one? He Qingyuan. I also think He Qingyuan will win. As soon as he finished speaking, the third ray of white light, like the afterglow of the Milky Way, descended in He Qingyuan's direction. A few people in the audience revealed a proud smile. It was quite interesting to use this as a game to kill time during this waiting period. But when the beam of light descended, the crowd couldn't help but be stunned. The third beam of light didn't land on He Qingyuan's body, but on the figure of another youth standing next to him. Everyone below the stage was stunned. Even Instructor Roshan had a look of surprise on her face. Chuhen, how can it be him? Is his cultivation higher than He Qingyuan's? It's probably because the demonic beasts we encountered in the early stages were weaker. There should be nothing left for him to do in a while. The three beams of light that descended from the four high platforms surrounded by Yuyue, Chungya, and Chu Hen. Among them, Bai Yuyue's beam of light was the brightest, while Chu Hen's was the darkest. These were the top three who defeated the most demonic beasts. If they were surpassed by others later on, the beam of light around them would also be replaced. Of course, the strength of the demonic beasts they encountered in the early stages was random. Although the strength of the demonic beasts varied, the difference was not too great. But the further they progressed, the stronger the demonic beasts became. Therefore, to the crowd, Bai Yuyue and Chungya occupying the top two spots was expected. As for Chu Hen, he was just lucky for now. This newcomer isn't bad. Xiao Yin, who stood at the front of the crowd, crossed his arms and rubbed his chin with one hand. He smiled with interest. Not far away, Ji Xian's eyes narrowed and the corner of his lips curled into a cold smile. Kill. Inside the illusionary killing formation, even though the enemies in front of them were all illusions, everyone was extremely excited and they unleashed their own powerful attacks one after another. Bang! The scattered waves of energy exploded in the air. At this moment, Chu Hen's opponent was a barbarian soldier who wore a helmet, was bare-chested, and held a long spear in his hand. The barbarian soldier was not weak. He was at the 8th level of the natal opening realm, one level higher than Chu Hen. Regardless of speed or strength, he surpassed the usual Wuxiao. Chu Hen held the limitless Fang and engaged in close combat with the barbarian soldier. As the barbarian soldier used a long spear, which was a mid-range weapon, Chu Hen stuck close to the barbarian soldier and attacked while sticking close to the barbarian soldier. Ha! The barbarian soldier continued to let out deep roars from his throat. He was being suppressed by Chu Hen's fighting style to the point that he felt extremely sullen. He could not use the long spear in his hand at all, and it was as if he had entered a narrow space. Soon, the barbarian soldier became mad. He suddenly let go of the long spear and clenched his right hand into a fist. An extremely powerful force burst out and hit Chu Hen's head. "Go to hell." The two stiff words were filled with anger. A disdainful smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and the limitless Fang slashed down like lightning. Hiss! Blood splattered, and the barbarian soldier's entire right arm flew off. Even half of his shoulder was chopped off by Chu Hen. The shrill scream was exactly the same as in reality. Even the blood that splashed on his face had a faint warmth. Chu Hen did not hesitate and slashed down with his black saber. The dazzling saber light was like a shooting star that crossed the night sky. The barbarian soldier's head, that was wearing a helmet, was thrown more than 10 meters away. Blood spurted out from the severed neck like a fountain, and the barbarian soldier fell to the ground powerlessly. Then, the corpse on the ground gradually became illusory. Even the blood that splashed on Chu Hen's face slowly disappeared. "It's the 19th one." Chu Hen let out a long sigh and murmured softly. There was only one left to defeat the 20 enemies that Mentor Shilon had given him. Of course, 20 enemies was only the lowest standard. This standard was set for Li Hui and Zhou Lu. Chu Hen was not among them. At least for him, 20 enemies was not a lot. However, Chu Hen's result was already far ahead of most people. Moreover, at this time, there were already many people who could not hold on any longer. Roar! A young man on the left was caught off guard and was immediately pressed under the claws of a huge tiger-shaped monster with black fur. The monster's terrifying power was as strong as a mountain, and it directly suppressed the man to the point that he could not move. Seeing that the monster was about to bite down on him with its cold, sharp teeth, the man hurriedly channeled his true energy into his Yintang acupoint. Then, a ray of light flashed between the man's eyebrows. In the next moment, the man suddenly turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared in the illusion. Once the connection with the illusion-killing formation was broken, it also meant that the man's combat training in the formation had stopped here. However, what made Chu Hen astonished was that even though the young man had left the illusionary killing formation, the black tiger monstrous beast was still there. The latter raised its huge head, and, after letting out a roar, it directly charged towards the person closest to it. The person closest to it was none other than Bai Yuyue. Just as Chu Hen wanted to remind the other party, Bai Yuyue had already flashed away from her original spot. Her clear eyes flashed with a wisp of cold light. Hiss! A dazzling light flashed. Bai Yuyue's lithe figure actually left a series of afterimages in the air. As the afterimages flew past, the huge black tiger-shaped monster instantly fell to the ground powerlessly. Immediately after, a neat wound faintly opened up in the middle of the tiger's head, and scarlet blood splattered everywhere. This is... Chu Hen's pupils involuntarily shrank. What kind of move was this? Wasn't it too fast? Then, Chu Hen's attention fell on the weapon end by Yuyue's hand. It was a light saber, and its appearance was actually a little similar to the limitless Fang. It was more similar to a long sword. However, the sword had a blade on both sides, while the saber only had a blade on one side. The light saber that Bai Yue used was silver in color, as if silver snow was lingering around it, dazzling like a ray of light. After Bai Yue killed the black tiger-shaped demonic beast with a single slash, the enemy that she was facing previously had already rushed forward. It was a warrior wearing silver armor and wielding a heavy sword in his hand. His momentum was menacing. With both hands holding the heavy sword, The surging momentum of the sword was like a stormy sea, causing waves of vigorous vibrations. Based on this momentum, the opponent clearly possessed the strength of the ninth level of the element opening realm. However, there was not the slightest hint of panic by Yue's cold face. Her figure moved nimbly like a spirit rabbit in the forest. When she was less than 2 meters away from the silver-armored warrior, Yue lightly waved her white wrist. The hurried wind was abnormally sharp, and as the lightsaber danced, a long and narrow silver crescent light flashed through the air. It was as bright as a glimpse, and Chu Hen's pupils trembled once again. Bang! Accompanied by a heavy muffled sound, the silver-armored warrior with the strength of the ninth level of the element opening realm suddenly stopped moving. The silver armor on his body split open, and on his stiff and expressionless face, a thin blood-red line rapidly thickened. What a graceful saber technique! Chu Hen was extremely shocked, and his brows were filled with admiration. He had never seen Bai Yue in action before, but he did not expect her cultivation to be so strong. Especially the saber technique that she had just displayed, it was graceful and agile, gorgeous and powerful. In terms of a single move, Chu Hen could not see through the slightest flaw. In addition to being amazed, Chu Hen could not help but secretly want to learn from her. If he could learn the saber technique that Bai Yue had mastered, it would be of great help to him. Chu Hen, what are you doing? Be careful behind you. He Qingyuan shouted loudly. Chu Hen was shocked. He had been so focused on looking at Bai Yue that he had almost forgotten that there was a new opponent on his side. Swoosh! A cold light flashed, and a biting cold wind attacked. A swift and fierce black shadow suddenly rushed behind Chu Hen. Chu Hen backhanded and slashed out with the limitless Fong. A circle of vigorous saber light spread out, and both Chu Hen and the black shadow retreated. Chu Hen narrowed his eyes, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. This time, his opponent had the strength of the ninth level of the element opening realm. Chapter 167. In the illusionary killing formation. As time passed, more and more students who participated in the combat training were eliminated. Within the hazy and dark illusion, there were less than 20 people left. Bang! I can't take it anymore. Li Huiyu was knocked from the left to the right by a silver, rhinoceros demonic beast, and then from the front to the back. He fell to the ground and complained incessantly, crying for his parents. Little Li, hang in there. You're still 3 away from the standard set by instructor Shilon. Not far away. Zhou Lu was also persevering bitterly. She was also 2 away from the 20 standard. Even so, the 2 of them had already given it their all, but it was still unbearable. Not only them, even He Qingyuan and Lu Yu were gradually unable to hold on. Of course, the 2 of them had already defeated 20 enemies. In comparison, Chu Hen was fighting the enemies with ease, and he didn't seem to be under any pressure at all. Bang! The falling teeth saber's momentum was astonishing, and its power was strong. Even though Chu Hen was facing an enemy whose battle prowess had reached the 9th level of the element opening realm, he was still not at a disadvantage with his cultivation level of the 7th level of the element opening realm. Chu Hen's opponent was a black-clothed man who wore a ghost mask on his face. Through the mask, one could vaguely see his lifeless eyes. The opponent's weapon was a long sword. His swordsmanship couldn't be said to be exquisite, but it had a certain standard. Among the ranks of the 9th level of the element opening realm, his battle prowess was considered average. However, in the process of Chu Hen facing the enemy, most of his attention was on Bai Yue. Bai Yue's lily-white hands held the lightsaber. Every round of attack and defense was as smooth as flowing water. It was so perfect that there was almost no fault to be found. One move after another. The connection was perfect, causing Han Shun to feel more and more delighted. However, Bai Yue also noticed that there was a pair of eyes staring at her. Of course, this was not the first time this happened, and she was already used to it. There was no lack of people who wanted to secretly learn Bai Yue's saber technique. However, all of them failed without exception. Putting aside the fact that the moves of her saber technique were unique, agile, and graceful, ordinary people couldn't even see through it, let alone learn it and put it to use. But even if he understood the moves, he could only imitate them. There was a world of difference between the two. However, what Bai Yue didn't expect was that the person who was watching her was a little different from the others. What she didn't know was that her opponent had a pair of monstrous eyes that could see through a person's true essence. The depths of Chu Hen's pupils had unknowingly turned into an obscure purple color. From the beginning to the end, he could clearly see the flow of Bai Yue's true essence, as well as every move she made with her saber. Even the slightest movement was deeply imprinted in Chu Hen's mind. The more he saw, the more pleasantly surprised Chu Hen was, and the more he liked Bai Yue's saber technique. Towards the end, Chu Hen deliberately slowed down his battle with the black-clothed man. He only used defense and didn't attack. His mind was completely focused on Bai Yue. Roar! After defeating more than 30 opponents in a row, a one-horned fire ape appeared in front of Bai Yue. The fire ape's entire body was wrapped in scorching flames. It had already reached the rank of a second-grade spirit beast, which was equivalent to Wu Xiu's second-level core transformation stage. This was definitely a strong opponent. Roar! Once the one-horned fire ape appeared, its berserk energy directly shook the surroundings. Layers upon layers of vigorous energy waves swept out, and the scorching energy waves were full of powerful flames. The enraged one-horned fire ape charged toward Bai Yue. It leaped into the air like a meteorite, and its momentum was unstoppable. However, when faced with the menacing one-horned fire ape, Bai Yue's elegant face didn't show the slightest hint of panic. Just when the one-horned fire ape reached the highest point of 30 meters, Bai Yue's toes tapped the ground, and she leaped up like a nimble butterfly. When she was less than 2 meters away from the one-horned fire ape, the lightsaber that flickered with a holy silver radiance was swung out like lightning. Shadow Moon Dance. Along with Bai Yue's soft shout, a powerful aura of death immediately enveloped the one-horned fire ape. Swoosh! Bai Yue immediately flashed a series of afterimages in the sky, and the afterimages flashed past the one-horned fire ape's side like a ghost. The airflow between heaven and earth fell into an unprecedented rapid flow. A piercingly cold whirlwind stacked up, and like a tornado, it trapped the one-horned fire ape in all directions. A dozen meters long resplendent crescent moon suddenly appeared in the sky, and it passed through the fire ape's body. In the next moment, Bai Yue's figure flashed and once again transformed into a series of illusory afterimages that flashed to the other side of the one-horned fire ape. Another crescent moon that was more than 10 meters long flashed past the fire ape. Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly, and his expression changed slightly. His hands involuntarily clenched into fists. Every time Bai Yue swung her sword, a series of afterimages would appear, and she would change her position. What shocked Chu Hen the most was her opponent's speed. It was simply so fast that if he didn't have a pair of demonic eyes, he probably wouldn't even be able to catch up to the corner of Bai Yue's clothes. Looking from afar, it looked like there were 6 or 7 Bai Yue attacking the one-horned fire ape from different angles, and the latter was completely suppressed in an extremely small space. Every time it wanted to move, the torrent-like aura would restrict its movements. With every slash, a crescent moon shadow would appear in the sky, and the scene was gorgeous, as if Bai Yue was dancing under the bright moon. In a short period of time, Bai Yue swung her sword a total of 9 times. When a 9th streak of silver moonlight flashed across the sky, Bai Yue then flashed back to the ground. Subsequently, with a loud bang, the one-horned fire ape's huge body fell heavily onto the ground. 9 places on its body were split open with bloody wounds, and every wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. It was especially fatal. Beautiful. It was simply beautiful. Chu Hen's face was filled with many unconcealable amazement. Bai Yue was indeed an amazing girl. The Shadow Moon Dance, just now, gave people the feeling that it was a bright and beautiful aurora that streaked across the sky in the darkness. Other than being gorgeous, its lethality was also extremely strong. Today's training in the illusionary killing formation was really worthwhile for Chu Hen. He had already seen through the rhythm of Baiyue's moves and remembered them in his mind. Chu Hen thought that after he went out, he would definitely study it properly. Chu Hen, why are you still in a daze? Do you want to die? He Qingyuan's reprimanding voice came again. Since the beginning, Chu Hen had been absent-minded, especially since his opponent was at the 9th level of the element opening realm. This was simply treating his own life as a joke. Although this was an illusion, if he was really injured and couldn't retreat in time, he would still lose his life. I guess junior brother Chu Hen can't take it anymore. As your senior brother, I'd better help you out. Accompanied by a strange laughter, the sound of rushing wind suddenly came from behind Chu Hen. Chu Hen was startled, and in a hurry, he quickly dodged to the side. However, it was still too sudden. Caught off guard, a solid blue light brushed past the left side of Chu Hen's ribs and hit the black-clothed man beside Chu Hen. Hiss! This blue light possessed an extremely powerful killing power. The chest of the black-clothed man was instantly pierced, and a string of blood splattered in the air. The black-clothed man staggered a few steps and finally powerlessly fell to the ground. Subsequently, the black-clothed man's body gradually became illusory and slowly disappeared. When they saw this scene, the nearby Hiqing, Lu Yu, and the rest all revealed astonished expressions. However, in an instant, Chu Hen's face was covered in a dense frost. His ice-cold eyes were like sharp swords as they swept towards a young man behind him. The one who had just attacked was none other than Changya. I'm sorry, junior brother Chu Hen. I almost injured you. Are you all right? Changya had a frivolous and ridiculing smile on his face, his tone not the slightest bit apologetic. If Chu Hen hadn't dodged in time, the one who would have fallen now would not only be his opponent. Chu Hen's expression became increasingly unsightly. It turned out that this bastard had come with the goal of plotting against him from the very beginning. He pretended to help, but in reality, he wanted to injure him. This was intolerable. Did I allow you to attack just now? Chu Hen's voice was as cold as an icicle. Junior brother Chu Hen. He Qingyuan hurriedly spoke up to dissuade him. Although the few of them didn't know why the two of them had come to blows when Changya had just returned, they all understood that if Chu Hen were to compete with Changya, he wouldn't be able to gain the slightest advantage. Changya disapproved, and his face was filled with ridicule. Isn't it good that I helped you? You should be thanking me. Thanking me? Chu Hen sneered. A surging aura shot into the sky, and the black blade in his hand flickered with a chilling luster that caused one's heart to palpitate. Then I'll properly thank you now. Senior brother Chu Hen, don't be rash. Li Hui, who was already lying on the ground by the giant rhinoceros demonic beast, also tried to dissuade him. However, the current Chu Hen couldn't listen to anything. There was nothing more infuriating than being bullied for 2 days in a row. A sneak attack from behind. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. The black blade was like a flickering light, and his attack was like lightning, directly attacking his opponent's head. Oomph. Changya laughed disdainfully. Stupid thing, you're courting death. You can't blame me. Vigorous blue true origin energy floated up Changya's arms, and a sharp dagger instantly appeared in his palm. Boom! In the next instant, the black saber collided with the sharp dagger. Chapter 168. Boom! Shockingly chaotic energy waves were released wantonly. Under the various gazes from the surroundings, the black saber in Chu Hen's hand collided head-on with Changya's dagger. A powerful airflow spread out, and the surging true essence energy was like sparks flying in all directions. The two people's weapons crossed and resisted each other. The blue luster and black radiance on the weapons were like two streams that intertwined and toward each other. The other people in the illusion were all stunned. Chu Hen was actually at a disadvantage in a head-on clash with Changya, who had the strength of a half-step core transformation realm. This was a little unexpected. Chi, the true essence energy released from the two people's bodies, constantly collided with each other. Chu Hen held the saber hilt with both hands, his brows extremely gloomy. Chungya's brows were also tightly knitted and the veins on his arms bulged. He was secretly astonished that Chu Hen's strength was actually so strong. Was it because the weapon that instructor Shilan gave to Chu Hen was powerful? Chungya quickly rejected this thought. After all, this was an illusion. Although one could use their consciousness to create the weapon they normally used, the characteristics and strength that the weapon normally possessed would not be reflected. In other words, the black saber in Chu Hen's hand had the same appearance as the limitless tooth, but in reality, it was only the appearance and not the real limitless tooth. The strength of the weapons that everyone present was about the same. Your strength is not small, but do you think you could defeat me with brute force? Chungya sneered in disdain. A dazzling blue light erupted from his other hand and grabbed at Chu Hen's face. As he moved, the blue light that lingered on Chungya's arm instantly transformed into the phantom of a beast claw. The sharp claws tore through the air and emitted a dense aura of danger. Chu Hen's pupils slightly narrowed. At the same time that he bent his body to dodge, he withdrew the black saber and slashed with a backhand. A resplendent saber light swept toward his opponent's waist. Chungya waved the dagger in his hand and directly shattered the saber light. Then, the palm that transformed into the phantom of a beast claw once again pushed forward and struck toward Chu Hen's chest. Useless thing, get down. Chungya's attack was astonishing. The solid beast claw shadow was extremely powerful. The surrounding air was pushed forward rapidly, creating all kinds of waves. He Qingyan, Lu Yu, Zhou Lu, and the others who were at the other side had anxious expressions on their faces when they saw that Chu Hen was unable to dodge this palm strike. However, everyone was occupied with their own enemies and couldn't care less about what was happening over there. They couldn't stop it even if they wanted to. What was even worse was that new enemies had already appeared behind Chungya and Chu Hen. One of them was a huge albino crocodile that was over 20 meters wide, and the other was a crack fire python that was over 30 meters wide and as thick as a water tank. Humph! Shameless boasting. Chu Hen paid no heed to Chungya's ferocious attack. He focused his left hand, and a ball of demonic purple light intertwined with the powerful black light, rapidly converging at the center of his palm. Rumble! The violent power stirred up a wave of rolling thunder. A layer of illusory palm imprint immediately expanded. With an incomparably heavy explosion, the two palm forces firmly clashed and collided. The explosive energy turbulence was like the crisscrossing of a thunderstorm. A powerful shock wave spread out between the two of them. A ferocious force swept in all directions. Gorgeous and dazzling true origin energy wantonly scattered. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the purple light outside of Chu Hen's body actually faintly suppressed Chungya's true yuan by a bit. The beast claw image that lingered on the latter's left palm instantly shattered into pieces. Chungya's expression could not help but change. He had truly underestimated Chu Hen's strength. At this moment, the new opponents that the great illusion-killing formation had assigned to the two of them directly launched a ferocious attack at Chu Hen and Chungya. However, the two of them didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to their new opponents. As they fought, they flashed and retreated towards another area. Bang! As Chu Hen and Chungya retreated, the huge giant alligator and crack fire python also chased relentlessly. Wherever the two of them went, they fought. The two powerful demonic beasts also chased after them. In this way, the surrounding people had fallen into a trap. Originally, at this time, the people who had gone through a series of high-intensity battles were all exhausted and somewhat unable to hold on. The chaotic shock waves caused by the battle between Chu Hen and Chung yet already affected the others quite a bit. What was even worse was that there were still two big fellows following behind them. The giant albino alligator and the crack fire python didn't seem to recognize people. The two huge fellows swept across the battlefield in the surrounding areas. F*CK. Damn you. One by one, the students who were on the verge of collapsing were met with this unexpected disaster. They were either sent flying 7 to 8 meters away or knocked to the ground by their opponents due to the effects of the illusion. Helpless, these people could only accept their bad luck. They cut off their connection with the formation and retreated from the illusion. Senior brother Chu Hen, senior brother Chengya, stop messing around. He Qingyuan bitterly held on, completely not in the mood to continue fighting with his opponents. As for Li Huiyi and Zhou Lu, these two people who could not hold on any longer, they found an excuse to retreat. Among the crowd, the only one who was not affected was by Yu Yue. She continued to deal with the troubles in front of her without a care in the world. Chu Hen and Chengya had long since fought with their true strength. How could they stop so easily? Not long after, the entire illusion-killing formation was practically turned upside down by the two of them. All sorts of violent true essence power wantonly flew everywhere. Towards the end, even He Qingyuan and Lu Yu could not stay any longer. They channeled their true essence into their Yintang meridian and retreated from the illusion. At the center of the lake. What's going on? How did everyone come out so quickly? The crowd gathered in the plaza began to make all sorts of noises and sounds of confusion. The crowd on the four high platforms began to wake up one after another, and all of them were covered in dirt and grime, gnashing their teeth in anger. Looks like there's a problem inside. Xiaoyan rubbed his chin and looked at Ji Xian nearby with interest. Why are you looking at me? Ji Xian looked indifferent. I'm here. If there's a problem inside, do you think it has anything to do with me? Hee, that's hard to say. Who doesn't know that your senior brother, Ji Xian's strength, is outstanding? Even if he's standing outside, he can stretch his hand inside. Ji Xian snorted softly and ignored him. At this moment, He Qingyuan's body trembled. He opened his eyes, and a helpless expression appeared on his face. The crowd below the square was even more surprised. Even Roshan and the other teachers who were in charge of management were confused. Someone below the platform could not help but ask, Senior Brother Qingyuan, why did you come out so early? What exactly happened inside? Did you meet a super opponent? A bitter smile appeared on He Qingyuan's face. Don't mention it. Chu Hen and Chengya almost turned the place upside down. We were all thrown out. What? Everyone was extremely shocked. Only then did they realize that only by Yu Yue, Chu Hen, and Chengya had yet to awaken. Teacher Roshan frowned. She then said to the people in charge of management beside her, stop operating the illusion formation. Yes. In the next moment, under Roshan's guidance, they performed a few hand seals of the stone tablet beside the steps. The light from the bright stone tablet immediately dimmed. Then, Roshan reached out with her right hand. A powerful suction force was released from her palm and imprinted on the golden disc at the center of the stone tablet. There was a slight vibration in the air. The compass in the center of the stone tablet was taken out. In an instant, the aura of the jade spirit pillars that stood at the four corners of the high platform quickly retracted. The flickering silver runes on the pillars rapidly faded and dimmed. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth that enveloped the platform returned to the four jade spirit pillars like a whale sucking in water. The illusion formation then stopped operating. Immediately after, Bai Yue was the first to awaken. Chu Hen and Chengya followed closely behind, without waiting for everyone to understand what was going on. Chu Hen's opened eyes emitted a chilling intent. Song! A clear metallic sound rang out, and the demon Punisher spear astonishingly appeared in his hand. Without saying a word, Chu Hen stood up with the spear in his hand. Black tyrannical true Yuan rose like the black flames of the 9 underworlds. The cold and stern killing intent was as bone-piercing as the bleak cold wind. Chu Hen leapt up, and the demon Punisher spear spat out a 3-foot spear aura. Circles of vigorous air waves lingered around the body of the spear like a small whirlpool. The unstoppable might of the spear directly attacked Chengya in front of him. You're courting death. A ferocious glint surged within Chengya's eyes. Endless true essence erupted and rose like floodwaters. Both of his palms were thrown forward, and a layer of solidified blue light curtain appeared in front of him, forming a powerful shield. Foolish thing. You want to harm me with just this bit of strength? Bang! As his voice faded, The spear in Chu Hen's hand directly and solidly struck the blue light screen in front of his opponent. Violent energy fluctuations rose like giant waves on the surface of water. Following an incomparably heavy explosion, the blue light screen that everyone originally thought would not be broken by Chu Hen was forcibly blasted apart on the spot. Heavens! This fellow? A chaotic blue wave of air blossomed on the platform. He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, and the others on the high platform were pushed back one after another. The swift and fierce spear rapidly pierced towards Changya's throat like a hot knife through butter. Changya was startled, the panic in his eyes fleeting. He dodged to the side, and the sharp spear edge brushed past his right shoulder. The powerful spear light tore through the air, forming an invisible blade of air. Under the slash of the blade of air, a tiny trace of blood immediately flowed out from Changya's neck. What? Chapter 169. The incomparably powerful spear light tore through the air and brushed past Changya's right shoulder. A strand of invisible air blade that covered the tip of the spear instantly cut a bit of the skin on Changya's neck, and a fine red line seeped out. The appearance of this scene caused everyone present to be extremely astonished, and all of them were dumbstruck. Fuck, are you kidding me? Changya has the strength of a half-step core transformation stage expert. Is this fellow, Chu Hen, going to defy the heavens? Changya was probably careless. He should be able to turn things around in a while. Even though the illusionary killing formation had stopped operating, Chu Hen still did not plan to let it go just like that. Changya's actions in the illusionary killing formation were truly extremely vexing. If Chu Hen had not dodged in time, he would probably have been carried off the stage by now. Swift and fierce spear shadows continuously transformed and took form, attacking wave after wave towards the various vital points on Changya's body. The weapon Changya used was a dagger. If he wanted to gain an advantageous offensive, he would have to stick close to Chu Hen and attack. However, from the beginning to the end, Chu Hen did not allow his opponent to get close. He completely controlled the distance between them to a position where the spear could be used. An inch longer, an inch stronger advantage was displayed to the fullest by Chu Hen. No matter how fast your reaction is, how can you be faster than me? Changya coldly snorted. Then, he leaped up and directly flew into the air. He stepped on the body of the Devil Punisher spear and pounced towards Chu Hen. His nimble movement speed was like a cheetah pouncing on its prey. Changya flipped in midair, and the dagger was placed horizontally in front of him as he rapidly stabbed towards Chu Hen's head. His movements were as fast as a dragonfly touching water. The expressions of everyone present involuntarily changed as they cried out in their hearts. This Changya can't be thinking of killing Chu Hen, right? Changya, don't cause trouble. Roshan coldly shouted in a sweet voice. She was just about to step forward to stop the two of them, but she was stopped by Ji Xian. Minna Roshan, don't worry. Changya knows what he's doing. He just wants to teach a lesson to those rookies who are too aggressive and make them restrain themselves. This is for their own good. Don't you think so? Roshan's fine eyebrows faintly knitted together. However, it was already too late at this moment. Changya's attack had already arrived in front of Chu Hen. The dagger, flickering with a blue luster, seemed to have been tempered in venom, sinisterly cold and incomparably dangerous. Changya's face revealed a sinister smile. Arrogant and conceited thing, I'll make sure that you won't even have the time to use the talisman. There's no need to waste my talisman on trash like you. Chu Hen sneered. Buzz! Before his voice faded, a powerful aura erupted from within Chu Hen's body, accompanied by a bone-chilling ice xianqi. Dozens of sharp icicles grew out of nowhere on the stage. The sharp icicles were like bamboo shoots that sprang out after the rain. They shot out from below, emitting an unstoppable penetrative force. Changya's expression changed. If he used this attack, it was likely that he would be pierced through by the sharp icicles at the same time his dagger pierced into Chu Hen's body. In his haste, Changya hurriedly withdrew his attack. Raising his palm, he struck the dozens of icicles below. After shattering a few rows of icicles, He used the recoil from the force of his palm to retreat backwards. However, it was also at this moment that a hurried wind rushed over. A series of spear images erupted from the spear that was twined with black light. A solid spear glow shot out from the tip of the spear like an aurora, solidly smashing into the front of Changya's body. Bang! A heavy muffled sound rang out in the air. A scattered wave of true essence blossomed like a halo, and a force that was comparable to a mountain swept over. Changya was directly sent flying. Everyone below was stunned. Changya, who was at the half-step core transformation stage, was actually unable to even enter Chu Hen's body. This was truly somewhat difficult to accept. Thud! Changya somersaulted in the air before landing on the stage in a half-squatting position. His feet dragged on the stone floor for over a dozen meters before coming to a stop. What was even more shocking was that there was actually a faint trace of blood hanging from the corner of Changya's mouth. Chu Hen's attack just now had actually injured the other party. You shameless thing, your life is quite tenacious. Chu Hen held the Devil Punisher's spear at an angle, surging true essence lingering around his body like circular ripples. His grave and stern eyes were like a blade, filled with disdain. You don't be happy too early. Changya's eyes were scarlet red, and his teeth made cracking noises as he gritted them. Being looked down upon by a person whose cultivation was weaker than his was simply intolerable, especially in front of so many people. Today, if he did not make Chu Hen's blood splash 5 steps away, he would not be able to swallow this resentment. Rumble! In the next instant, a torrential aura rose from Changya's body. Blue light patterns intersected as they soared into the sky. Everyone present could feel the ruthless aura that originated from Changya's body. The airflow on the entire stage instantly became especially chaotic, and a powerful aura surged towards Chu Hen like a torrent. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, a dense blue light wrapped around Changya's body and rapidly formed the phantom of a fierce wolf. This is the bloodline limit of the demon wolf war body. Senior brother Changya is angry. Instructor Roshan, hurry up and stop him. Zhou Lu, Li Hui, and the others hurriedly walked forward and said. Without waiting for Roshan to speak, Ji Xian indifferently said, "There's nothing to worry about. Changya won't do anything to him. Don't worry." But, haha, I'm curious to hear who will win. Hearty laughter rang out, and Xiao Yan's lips curled into a faint smile. Senior brother Xiao Yan, you? Hee, just you wait. I see that junior brother Chu Hen doesn't seem to be panicking at all. However, hearing Xiao Yan's words, the few of them unconsciously relaxed slightly. Indeed, back in St. Bell City, even when facing a genius like Wei Qingfan, Chu Hen had caused him trouble. Although Changya was also very powerful, there was still quite a gap between him and Wei Qingfan. Ji Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and he sneered inwardly. He's just relying on external force to take away a high-grade spirit talisman. What ability does he have? Rumble. Changya's aura rose steadily, and the image of the ferocious wolf that enveloped him grew clearer and more solid. In the blink of an eye, the image of a ferocious wolf that was over 10 meters tall had appeared before everyone's eyes. The wolf's appearance was extremely mighty. Its back was covered in blue fur, and its abdomen was white. Moreover, there was a pair of white wings on its back that were over 30 meters wide when they were spread open. A violent gale swept through the arena, and it seemed like a ferocious beast was standing before Chu Hen. Changya stood within the image of the wolf, and the veins on his body bulged while his expression was ferocious. Obviously, he was enduring an extremely enormous force. Hee, stinking brat, you asked for it. I won't kill you, but I'll make you lie in bed obediently for 1.5 years. Oh, the howl of a wolf, as if it was a real one, pierced through the 9 heavens. Then, Changya's body moved, and like a wolf pouncing on its prey, he flew out. Along with the demon wolf illusion with peerless might, he charged towards Chu Hen. The image of the wolf bared its fangs and brandished its claws, and it revealed a ferocious light. The formidable attack that was vast like a mountain poured down, and the entire high platform fell into a state of restlessness. The expressions of countless people below the platform changed when they felt the might that erupted from Cheng Ya's killer move. The might of this move was comparable to the strength of a core transformation realm expert, and besides Ji Xian, Xiao Yin, and Bai Yuyue, there was probably no one else present that could withstand it. However, at the same time, the true origin energy outside Chu Hen's body swiftly converged like a stream before him. In the blink of an eye, a red-colored talisman mark that seemed like a colored glass appeared before him. The scorching and restless fluctuation of energy was like the lava of a volcano that was brewing. That's the St. Bell City's blazing curse? Exactly, the blazing curse. Along with the exclamations of the crowd, the space before Chu Hen suddenly trembled. The blazing curse before him suddenly bloomed into a layer of blazing light that shot into the sky. The pupils of Ji Xian, Xiao Yin, Bai Yuyue, and the other geniuses shrunk slightly. Even Instructor Roshan's face was filled with shock. The students who had been to St. Bell City before could not help but suddenly realize that the blazing curse that Chu Hen obtained was actually the blazing curse. The surging flame light screen was like a raging wave on the surface of the sea, and it directly shot into the sky dozens of meters high. The violent power of the curse was so powerful that it was simply shocking. Don't think that a small flame barrier can stop me. You're too naive, Cheng Ya roared angrily. However, before his voice could fade, a huge flaming hand that was more than 10 meters wide suddenly stretched out from the flame light screen that shot into the sky. This huge flaming hand was like the hand of the god of fire that could destroy the world. The scorching temperature caused the space to burn and distort indeterminately. Subsequently, under countless shocked gazes, the huge flaming hand directly collided with the demon wolf silhouette. Boom! The blazing curse, demon wolf battle physique. The moment the two violent powers intersected, it was like two torrents of water clashing against each other. The blue light and the red flames overlapped, constantly clashing and tearing at each other, forming a ring of chaotic power. In an instant, the sky and earth dimmed a little. The entire high platform violently shook without end. The powerful shock waves spread out like ripples on water, and countless students below the platform were shaken to the point that they continuously retreated. If it wasn't for the illusion-killing formation's defensive formation, such a violent power fluctuation would have directly caused it to collapse. Roar! Under the constant assault of the flames, the demon wolf silhouette outside, Cheng Ya's body continuously dimmed. Let's see what else you can do. Cheng Ya roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot, and he relied on a ferocious force to withstand the power of the blazing curse. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling light flashed, and another bright rune appeared in front of Chu Hen. However, this rune was as white as a snowflake. This is? Countless people below the platform immediately narrowed their eyes, and their faces were filled with shock. Frost curse? Oh my god! He actually grasped 2 curse runes. Chapter 170. Frost sigil. Oh my god! He actually grasped 2 curse sigil runes. Looking at the snowflake-like, sparkling runes that condensed in front of Chu Hen, the expressions of everyone below the stage changed drastically, especially those students who had been to St. Bell City. All of them widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. It must be known that even Wei Qing Fan, Shun Yunxi, Bai Yuyue, Long Shuang, these rather famous geniuses had only obtained 1 curse sigil. Yet, Chu Hen had actually obtained 2 in a row. Before everyone could recover from their shock, the frost sigil in front of Chu Hen erupted with an extremely chilling ice profound energy. The fog-like power of frost surged towards Cheng Ya in front of him. Crack! With Chu Hen at the center, the stage immediately condensed into ice, and a thick layer of ice rapidly spread toward Cheng Ya. The bone-chilling energy caused Cheng Ya to involuntarily shiver, and the circulation of his true yuan instantly became especially sluggish. In the blink of an eye, Chanya was surrounded by a thick layer of ice in a narrow space. Humph! Insignificant tricks. Chunya's eyes turned cold, and an even more surging true yuan was born in his dantian chi si. In an instant, the demon wolf phantom that lingered around his body once again solidified. However, at this moment, a layer of ice that was over 2 meters thick simultaneously rose from Chunya's left, right, and back. The 3 ice curtains were like small icebergs, directly sealing off Chunya's 3 paths of retreat. At the same time, the 3 ice curtains rapidly rose, with an unstoppable aura. It pressed down on the demonic wolf in the middle. Countless icicles sprouted out of the thick ice wall at a rapid speed. The icicles were unstoppable, directly piercing through the demon wolf phantom like piercing through tofu, and extended toward the interior of Chanya. The appearance of such a scene was truly an eye-opener for the countless students present. Chu Hen's move was simply magnificent. Chanya, who was in the middle of the 3 ice curtains, seemed to have fallen into a trap. The countless icicles had completely locked the demonic wolf within. No matter how much it struggled, it was unable to escape. Chanya was shocked to the extreme, and panic surged into his eyes. Then, the phantom of the demon wolf disappeared. Chanya didn't say anything and rushed out from the only direction that wasn't blocked by the ice curtain. However, without waiting for Chanya to escape from his predicament, Chanya felt his throat go cold as a sharp piercing pain caused his scalp to go numb. "If you dare to move again, I will pierce your throat." Boom! In the next moment, the entire square let out a long hiss. Everyone's pupils involuntarily trembled, only to see that Chu Hen had unknowingly flashed in front of Chanya, that sharp spear in his hand, the tip of the spear already pressed against Chunya's throat. Victory or defeat. The result was obtained in the blink of an eye. But no one had expected that Chunya, who was at the half-step core transformation stage, would be so easily defeated by Chu Hen. Chunya's heart was in his throat when he felt the coldness in Chu Hen's eyes. Behind and to his left and right were ice curtains that were covered in icicles, and Chunya didn't even retreat. What do you want?" he asked in a low voice. Humph. Chu Hen sneered, and there was still a playful expression between his brows. "What do I want? I want to ask you, what do you want? You caused trouble for me twice for no reason. Do you really think I'm so easy to bully?" Looking at Chunya, whose life hung in Chu Hen's hands, the feelings of everyone below the stage were different. Li Hui, Zhou Lu, Hiqing, Lu Yu, and the others were surprised and bewildered. Truthfully speaking, until now, they still didn't understand how the enmity between the two of them was formed. Ji Xian's expression had already turned gloomy, and there was still coldness in his eyes. In fact, it was Ji Xian who instructed Chanya to go against Chu Hen, so the latter naturally wouldn't let it go. "Ah, how interesting. Junior brother Chu Hen, since you've won, it's about time to let it go." "Huh." Chu Hen's handsome brows raised lightly, and he glanced sideways at Chanya. "Senior brother Ji Xian, are you treating this as a competition? I'm sorry, I don't have the leisure to fight here for all of you to watch." His cold and indifferent tone didn't have the slightest intention of compromising. Even though he was the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, Chu Hen was still awe-inspiring arrogance. "I'm asking you to let him go." Ji Xian emphasized the word "please," which sounded more like a threat. Instantly, the atmosphere of the scene became slightly strange. Everyone couldn't help but feel slightly baffled. Earlier, everyone thought it was a conflict between Chu Hen and Chunya, but now it seemed like the matter wasn't so simple. "Junior brother Chu Hen, stop fooling around. Let go." Lu Yu hurriedly dissuaded him. She knew Ji Xian's personality very well, and if he was offended, he wouldn't be able to survive in Tensei Prefecture. "Chu Hen, don't mess around here." Instructor Roshan finally recovered from the shock and said, "It's all my fault for not stopping you just now. I won't pursue the matter since you're fighting here. However, there are elders from our prefecture overseeing this area in secret. If they're alarmed, you'll inevitably be punished again." Roshan's words were rather pertinent, and she didn't take sides. Chu Hen's expression softened a little. No matter what, he still had to give face to Roshan. Oomph. Let me warn you, don't provoke me again in the future. Otherwise, I'll make sure your blood splatters everywhere. Buzz. Finished speaking, Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. With a flick of his wrist, the demon-punishing spear that was swallowing and spitting out true yuan dragged out a string of afterimages in the air. With a sweeping momentum, it struck Cheng Yu's chest. Bang! Waves of air and dust piled up, and Cheng Yu was instantly sent flying. At the same time, a large mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. Cheng Yu rolled off the stage, and Bian Hong, Wu Zhe, and the others hurriedly went up to support him. Ji Xian, on the other hand, stood where he was, his expression growing increasingly gloomy. Chu Hen's spear was behind his back, and he stood proudly on the stage. His pitch-black eyes were fearless as he faced off against Cheng Yu, and invisible sparks exploded in the air. At this moment, Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, Bai Yue, and Chu Hen seemed to have formed a connection between the four of them. Without a doubt, Chu Hen, who is only a newcomer this year, was rapidly following in the footsteps of the other three. They could clearly feel a strong sense of danger. The storm of the illusionary killing array training ended. Chu Hen, accompanied by Li Hui, Zhou Lu, and He Qingyuan, left the Westlake Plaza. Along the way, everyone was silent. The way they looked at Chu Hen was a little strange, filled with confusion and strangeness. The more they interacted with Chu Hen, the more they felt that Chu Hen was unfathomable, as if his entire body was filled with secrets. "I'll go back first," Chu Hen said. "Oh, okay," He Qingyuan replied, and said. Chu Hen and the others nodded slightly, and after a simple greeting, they left. After a while, Chu Hen arrived at the maple forest alone. This was the place where he usually practiced his saber techniques. With a thought, a white light flashed in Chu Hen's palm, and a black saber immediately appeared in his hand. Limitless Fong. Chu Hen looked at the black saber in his hand. This saber was exquisite, and its aura was awe-inspiring. Every time, Chu Hen could feel a hidden restless power from the saber. He didn't know that the limitless Fong given to him by Shilan was a powerful spiritual weapon. However, Chu Hen could faintly sense that this weapon seemed to contain some kind of astonishing power. "Forget it. I'll practice my saber techniques first." Chu Hen took a deep breath, then closed his eyes, got rid of the distracting thoughts, and began to recall the moves that he had memorized from Bai Yue in the illusion. If it was an ordinary person, this method would be useless. But Chu Hen, who had the bloodline boundary of the demon I Holy Body, not only remembered Bai Yue's moves, but also the direction of her true chi when she used her saber techniques. This was equivalent to Chu Hen almost seeing through all of Bai Yue's moves. As long as he imitated and practiced according to this routine, he could achieve the same attack as Bai Yue. In Chu Hen's mind, a series of movements of Bai Yue when she used the Shadow Moon dance, including various subtle changes, appeared in front of Chu Hen. That should be the airflow. The Shadow Moon dance used the true chi to drive the airflow between heaven and earth to suppress the opponent in a fixed range. Then, using the speed of the airflow, she changed 9 positions in a very short time. Every time she changed a position, she waved her saber. There were a total of 9 sabers, causing 9 fatal wounds to the enemy. Like a shadow, like a moon, like a dance, this was Chu Hen's own opinion. As for that crescent moon shadow, it should be the aurora produced by the friction between the saber and the air. What kind of speed can reach that level? As Chu Hen pondered, he couldn't help but admire Bai Yue. For a girl to be able to train the speed of her saber to be so fast, it was really amazing. But thinking about it, Bai Yue's direct mentor was Shadowless. Everyone knew that Shadowless was a core mentor who specialized in speed. Under his tutelage, Bai Yue, in addition to her own talent, could reach this level. It wasn't strange. If I could use the Shadow Moon dance at the same level as Bai Yue, defeating that Chanya would only be a matter of 3 moves. Then, as Chu Hen recalled Bai Yue's moves, he couldn't help but try to imitate that routine. Limitless Fong waved in the air, dragging out a powerful airflow. Slowly, Chu Hen's speed became faster and faster. The airflow also became faster and faster. The dry branches and leaves also flew. It was imposing, but compared to Bayuyue's lithe and agile nature, it was completely incomparable. Chapter 171. As the days went by, the entire imperial city entered a countdown. In the 31 high-ranked martial houses, all the genius students had entered into a state of intense preparation and training. On the streets and alleys, after meals, the topic that everyone talked about the most was the upcoming All-Academy Martial Competition. Hey, have you heard about it? This year's All-Academy Martial Competition will be different from the past. Oh, how so? It's said that this year's All-Academy Martial Competition is divided into two levels. One is the Heaven Ranking Battle, and the other is the Earth Ranking Battle. There are only 100 spots in the Heaven Ranking Battle, and 68 of them are fixed. Only the top genius students in the high-ranked martial houses are qualified to obtain these fixed spots. In a month's time, the All-Academy Martial Competition will be held for the Earth Ranking Battle, and only the top 32 of the Earth Ranking will be qualified to enter the Heaven Ranking. Does this mean that there are tens of thousands of people competing for the 32 spots in the Heaven Ranking? That's right. This is 2F** King difficult. It's really troublesome for tens of thousands of people to compete for 32 spots. It's easier to just get the fixed spots. Forget it. Those 62 fixed spots aren't something that you can get just because you want to. Even outstanding geniuses like Wei Qingfan and Shun Yunxi might not be able to get the fixed spots in the Heaven Ranking. However, Wei Qingfan and Shun Yunxi will definitely be able to enter the top 32 of the Earth Board. That's for sure. Not to mention the top 32, it won't be a problem for them to enter the top 5 of the Earth Ranking. What's the purpose of the Heaven Ranking Battle? It's never happened before. Tensei Prefecture. In the maple forest, Chu Hen constantly waved the black saber in his hand. The extremely powerful and piercingly cold aura caused the air within a few meters to flow abnormally fast. Rocks tumbled as dried branches and leaves danced around Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen's saber was light and fast, like a flickering light and a passing shadow, like a meteor chasing after the moon. Xing, the limitless Fong, burst out with a dazzling light. Chu Hen leapt up and was 20 meters above the ground. Then a powerful aura was released from his body. Xiao, the black saber left a series of afterimages in the air. In the next instant, a 7 to 8 meter long crescent light streaked across the sky. The bright and beautiful flowing light was like a shooting star in the night sky. It was especially gorgeous. Then, the moment Chu Hen landed firmly on the ground, a big maple tree about 2 meters in front of him was split in half. Not bad. A gentle voice came from behind, and a beautiful figure with long purple hair walked up to him. Compared to a month ago, your saber technique has improved a lot. Chu Hen turned around, and a bright smile appeared on his handsome face. It's all thanks to your guidance. You've also learned to be talkative. Shilan smiled faintly. Her beautiful face was very moving. Chu Hen touched his nose, a little embarrassed. Only now did he realize how important it was to have a good teacher beside him. If he were to train hard by himself, he might not be able to achieve such results even after a year. Oh yes, teacher, I had a question to ask you. Go ahead. What level is this limitless Fong? Chu Hen raised the black saber in his hand. The sharp patterns on it were like the fangs of a fierce beast, emitting an unconcealable sharpness. I keep feeling that there's a very restless power in it. Looking at the familiar saber in front of her, Shilan's beautiful eyes could not help but surge with a hint of sadness. However, she quickly returned to normal. Her red lips moved slightly, and she said, "There's indeed a strong power in the limitless Fong. This power is called limitless power. It's just that you don't have the ability to use it yet." Oh, Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Then what's the use of this limitless power? Like other spiritual weapons, it can greatly increase one's strength. Wait, spiritual weapon? Teacher, you said this limitless Fong is a spiritual weapon? So you still don't know? Chu Hen kept on shaking his head. Other than being astonished, he was also especially grateful. It seems like your spear is also a spiritual weapon. However, Its ranking should be slightly lower than the limitless Fong on the spiritual weapon ranking, Shilon replied, slowly and softly. The Devil Punisher spear, too? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and the surprise on his face became even more obvious. However, he quickly regained his senses. The Devil Punisher spear was obtained from the underground palace in the Boneless Mountain Range with Xiaqing. The original owner of the Devil Punisher spear was Demon Spear Fong Bufan. Senior Fong Bufan was known as one of the 3 great spear kings, and he had a powerful cultivation base at the void-piercing stage. It was extremely reasonable that his opponent's weapon was a spiritual weapon. If Fong Bufan were to casually use a piece of scrap metal as a weapon, then it would truly be abnormal. Now that he had 2 spiritual weapons in his hands, coupled with the illusory Spirit Bell's weapon spirit, it was equivalent to 2.5 spiritual weapons. Chu Hen suddenly felt that he was rich. After all, apart from the imperial family of the Saint Star dynasty, only a few first-rate families and forces could possess spiritual weapons. Chu Hen's achievement was already enough to make countless people envious. Looking at the slightly proud look on Chu Hen's face, Shilon could not help but think of her younger brother, Shi-chun. She remembered that when she passed the limitless Fong to him, Shi-chun was even more proud than Chu Hen. There were many similarities between the two of them. There's only a little more than a month left until the all-school martial competition. Prepare well. This time, the heaven ranking and earth ranking will be slightly beneficial to you, Shilon said casually. Heaven ranking and earth ranking? Chu Hen was stunned. Yes, there are a total of 100 places in the heaven ranking. There are 68 fixed places, and the remaining 32 places are for the top 32 in the earth ranking competition. A trace of surprise flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. In other words, in the all-school martial competition a month later, 68 top geniuses would be directly placed in the heaven ranking. In other words, all the students participating in the earth ranking competition would not encounter those 68 people. This was somewhat beneficial to Chu Hen as he could avoid encountering those terrifyingly powerful freaks as soon as possible. Will Wei Qing Fan be directly placed in the heaven ranking? A trace of coldness flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. Shilon frowned slightly and shook her head gently. It's hard to say. He probably won't be able to get a fixed place. Chu Hen was even more surprised. A genius of Wei Qing Fan's level was actually not in the top 68. As if reading Chu Hen's thoughts, Shilon explained, the 68 places are allocated to the major martial houses. In Tifeng province, you can at most get 2 or 3 places. These 2 or 3 places are naturally given to the strongest people in the academy. Although Wei Qing Fan is strong, in Tifeng province, he is ranked 4th or 5th. Surprise? Other than surprise, there was only more surprise. It was only now that Chu Hen realized how far he was from the ranks of the top geniuses in the capital. If even Wei Qing Fan couldn't obtain a fixed spot in the heaven roll, one could imagine how abnormal the 68 monstrous geniuses were. You're still young, and you still have a lot of time, Shilon said softly. Temporarily treat this year's all-school martial competition as a form of training. As for competing for the earth and heaven ranking, there will be opportunities in the future. No. Chu Hen clenched his fists and said resolutely, since the opportunity is right in front of me, why should I wait for the next time? I must enter the top 32 of the earth ranking and enter the heaven ranking. A sense of pride that originated from his bones was released from Chu Hen's body involuntarily. Shilan's slightly furrowed eyebrows quietly relaxed, and the corner of her small mouth unconsciously curved. She shook her head and laughed in her heart. Their personalities are really the same. Then, Shilon took the lead and left the maple forest. Chu Hen practiced his blade technique for another half an hour. Seeing that the sky had turned dark, he went back. However, after going back to change his clothes, Chu Hen went out again. After a while, Chu Hen arrived at a cultivation place in the eastern district of Tensei Prefecture. Appearing in front of Chu Hen was a magnificent building that occupied a large area and was 3 stories high. This building was called Retreat Courtyard. There were hundreds of secret rooms in the Retreat Courtyard. These secret rooms were all completely sealed. Except for a flash of door, every corner was airtight. This retreat courtyard could be said to be the most sturdy building in Tensei Prefecture. It was built with soundproof and shockproof materials. Even if you made a scene inside, the people in the isolation room would not be able to hear it. The reason why Chu Hen came here was to avoid being disturbed, and also for the sake of Mu Feng and Lei Jun. The last time he made a scene, he almost destroyed the entire courtyard. Chu Hen did not want to do it again. There was no one guarding the retreat courtyard. The students who came here could directly enter the secret room when they saw it was empty. Then, Chu Hen entered the silent cultivation courtyard. Normally, there would always be rooms that were empty. But today, every single one of them was fully occupied. Moreover, there were many people waiting outside the secret rooms. It was no wonder. As the inter-academy martial competition was approaching, the usually lazy geniuses had become diligent. However, Chu Hen's luck was not bad. He found an empty secret room on the second floor. Without thinking too much, he entered and closed the door. Bang! The stone door closed slightly, and Chu Hen's ears instantly became especially quiet. Not even the slightest sound could be heard. This kind of effect was what Chu Hen wanted. The layout of the secret room was very simple. Apart from a cattail, hassock cushion, and a stone table, there was nothing else. There were a few luminous pearls inlaid on the wall, emitting a faint glow. It's been 4 months since I returned from St. Bell City. It's time to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique. Today is a big day. Everyone is watching the military parade, but I'm still writing. I'm working so hard. Will my brothers throw flowers? Oh, intersectioners for intersection. Oh. Also, using today's big day, I wish the country will usher in a glorious era, and I also wish my brothers will soar and have a bright future. China's heavenly son of heaven. Celebrate with the country. 2015, this is also my 24-year-old year. I hope it will be an extraordinary year with 100 flowers blooming. I hope my brothers will fight with me in the vast world of online literature. I am a small boat, but I will cross the vast ocean. I beg for my brother's support. I beg for flowers. Charge. Chapter 172. It's been 4 months since I returned from St. Bell City. It's time to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique inside the quiet and spacious secret cultivation room. Chu Hen's face flashed with a hint of excitement. The door of the secret room could only be opened from the inside. It couldn't be opened from the outside. Such an environment where he wouldn't be disturbed was exactly what Chu Hen hoped for. Following that, Chu Hen walked to the stone table in the middle of the secret room. He first took out a dark red scroll from his storage ring, opened the scroll, and carefully read every word on it. Flaming sun body refinement technique. At the initial success stage, the illusory flames will surround the body, and the strength of the body will be able to resist blades and swords. At the advanced success stage, the strength of the bones will be able to split spirit artifacts, able to crack spirit weapons. Just based on these 4 words, this flaming sun body tempering technique could really be called a priceless treasure. Chu Hen had already memorized the contents of the scroll. At this moment, he only wanted to confirm the contents of the scroll once more. In addition to smearing the blood of the star fire sword-toothed rhinoceros on his body, he also needed a continuous supply of spiritual energy during the cultivation process. There were still many blood yuan fruits in Chu Hen's storage ring, which could be used to replenish his spiritual energy. After confirming every word on the scroll, Chu Hen placed the scroll on the table and took out a glass container. The container was filled with a bright red liquid. Even through the bottle, one could feel a burning sensation from it. The blood of a demonic beast contained extremely intense energy, especially when it was a rank 5 spirit beast like the starfire sword-toothed rhinoceros. No one wanted to smear their blood on their body. However, if one wanted to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique, the blood of a fire-type spirit beast was indispensable. Looking at the large bottle of demonic beast blood in front of him, Chu Hen let out a deep breath. He was already mentally prepared. Immediately, Chu Hen took off the clothes on his upper body, folded them, and placed them on the table. He casually took out a blood yuan fruit and put it in his mouth. Along with the sweet juice, A thick spiritual energy flowed in his body like a hot spring. Duh. Opening the glass bottle containing the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros, a scorching wave of air immediately surged out from within. Chu Hen then took out a jade ruler. The end of the jade ruler was wrapped with a few circles of white cloth. He dipped the end of the white cloth into the glass bottle and dipped it in the blood of the astral fire saber-toothed rhinoceros. In just a few seconds, the white cloth was dyed dark red. The scorching heat was transmitted to Chu Hen's palm through the jade ruler. It was almost as hot as fire, as if it could melt the jade ruler at any time. Chu Hen could not help but frown. Even though he had already made preparations in his heart to actually do it, it was truly difficult enough. However, after only a moment of hesitation, Chu Hen no longer hesitated. He gripped the jade ruler tightly and smeared the wet cloth dipped in the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros on his chest. A red mark immediately appeared on his body. This. In the next moment, Chu Hen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. His handsome face instantly turned blood red. The moment the saber-toothed rhino's blood came into contact with his skin, Chu Hen felt as if the magma beneath the ground had splashed onto his body. An incomparably scorching pain followed his skin and flesh, piercing into every single one of his nerves. Chu Hen gritted his teeth and once again dipped the jade ruler in the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros and smeared it on his left arm. The intense pain was like a piece of flesh being scraped off. Very quickly, beads of sweat overflowed from Chu Hen's forehead. His veins were bulging, and his eyes were bloodshot. When Chu Hen smeared the boiling blood on his back for the third time, his legs couldn't help but tremble. Even though Chu Hen already knew that smearing the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros on his body would be a little uncomfortable, he never imagined that the pain would be this intense. At the same time, Chu Hen could faintly feel a strand of demonic beast energy in the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood entering his body through his skin. However, the strength of this energy was negligible and couldn't support the basic conditions of circulating the flaming sun body tempering technique. Subsequently, a fourth, fifth, and sixth bloody mark appeared on Chu Hen's body. Not long after, Chu Hen's upper body was already dyed red. The blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros didn't have much of fishy smell, but when it was used on Chu Hen's body, it was like an extremely cruel punishment. Chu Hen gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. His eyes were also suffused with a red light. Seeing that there was still more than half a bottle of the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood in the container, Chu Hen clenched his teeth and steeled his heart. He suddenly flung away the jade ruler in his hand, picked up the glass bottle with both hands, and poured the blood on his head. Ah! Chu Hen let out a furious roar like a ferocious beast. The magma-like blood of the fifth-grade spirit beast instantly drenched his entire body. Rumble! A thunderous sound reverberated in Chu Hen's mind. In an instant, Chu Hen felt like he had fallen into a volcano, and an endless pain extended to every nerve cell in his body. Bang! With a loud sound, Chu Hen knelt heavily on the ground, unable to move. The saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood emitted a strange red glow and formed illusory halos in the dark secret chamber. At the same time, the violent energy that originated from the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood flowed continuously on the surface of Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen felt like his skin and flesh were melting. No, I can't do this. Chu Hen clenched his teeth, and his blood-red eyes flickered with a frightening light. He struggled to adjust his posture and sit on the ground. Then, according to the cultivation method of the flaming sun body tempering technique, he mobilized the quintessential chi in his body and circulated it according to the method. Buzz, buzz. The vigorous quintessential chi continuously circulated in his body according to the method of this martial art. Immediately after, something amazing happened. Chu Hen could clearly feel the energy from the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood flowing into his body through the surface of his skin. The energy contained in the beast's blood surprisingly fused with Chu Hen's quintessential chi. Then, it flowed into his meridians and seeped into his bones. After one round, The strength of Chu Hen's body had clearly increased. However, the intense pain that had gathered on the surface of his skin had also been brought into his body. Ugh! The intense pain caused Chu Hen to continuously let out muffled sounds like a ferocious beast. This kind of pain was unimaginable to others, and only Chu Hen could experience it himself. If he had to describe it, it was like molten copper flowing through his meridians. If it were an ordinary person, they would have already died from the pain. However, Chu Hen forcefully endured it. He gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to break, and his blood vessels were about to split open. However, Chu Hen had no other choice. If he wanted to compete with Wei Qing Fan in the school martial arts competition in a month's time, he had to successfully cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique. Hold on. Chu Hen secretly cheered himself on. If I can't even endure this little bit of hardship, how can I set foot on the peak of martial arts? How can I break the sky with one hand and destroy the world with a flick of my finger? I, Chu Hen, swear not to lower my head. Boom! A particularly powerful aura was released from Chu Hen's body. The power contained in the saber-toothed rhinoceros beast's blood all over his body seemed to be stimulated by something, blooming a scorching heat wave and red light. Soon, the true origin force in Chu Hen's body was exhausted, and the true origin force in his dantian could not keep up with the consumption. Chu Hen's eyes were still closed. He flipped his left hand, and a blood yuan fruit appeared in his palm again. Without hesitation, he swallowed the blood yuan fruit. The surging spiritual power immediately gathered into a powerful true origin force and flowed into his dantian. Under Chu Hen's control, the true origin force merged with the power of the beast's blood and circulated throughout his body, strengthening his flesh, blood vessels, and bones. Time continued to pass. Chu Hen stuffed the blood yuan fruit into his mouth again and again, and the beast's blood covering his body gradually dimmed. Moreover, the aura that Chu Hen exuded was also getting stronger. At this moment, a bright moon was hanging in the sky outside. In an antique meeting hall, bang! The thick palm landed on the table with a heavy thud. Then, an old man with a head full of white hair stood up from his seat. This is going too far. This is going too far. Why do they only give our Tensei Prefecture a fixed spot on the sky list? This is really going too far. Principal Jiang, it's fine if we don't participate in this year's All-Academy Martial Competition. Another old man sneered and said in a deep voice, if we don't participate, they will have an excuse to kick our Tensei Prefecture out. I believe there are many people in the Imperial City who want to see our Tensei Prefecture disband. But this is too much. The Imperial Martial Academy occupies 5 spots. 5 spots. That's 4 more spots than us. How can they bully us like this? The white-haired old man was still furious. In an instant, the entire hall fell into silence. Above the hall, Principal Jiang did not say a word. His tightly knitted brows were filled with complex emotions. At this moment, other than the various elders of the martial house, there was also Song Qinglai, Shadowless, Shilan, Yu-E, and a few other core teacher teams. Other than Shilan, who had a rather calm expression, everyone else's faces were gloomy and their brows were tightly knitted. Just an hour ago, Principal Jiang had just finished attending the Dean's meeting in the Imperial City. In this meeting, other than announcing the matters regarding the Earth List tournament, it was also about the distribution of the 68 fixed spots on the Sky List. The entire Imperial City had a total of 31 high-ranked martial houses. Among them, the Imperial Wind Academy, the Rhino Academy, the Giant Elephant Academy, and the Bright Moon Academy each obtained 3 fixed spots. As the head of the 5 great academies, the Imperial Martial Academy obtained 5 spots. 17 spots have been taken up just like that. As for the remaining 26 martial houses, other than the Heavenly Star Academy, the other 25 academies each obtained 2 spots for a total of 50 spots. In this way, all 67 spots were distributed. In the end, the Heavenly Star Academy only obtained 1 spot. Chapter 173. Humiliation. This is simply the greatest humiliation to our Tensei Prefecture. the Heavenly Star Martial House's assembly hall was filled with angry shouts. The All-Academy Martial Meet was just around the corner, and out of the 68 fixed spots on the Sky list, the Imperial Martial Academy had obtained 5 spots, while the Imperial Wind Martial House, Bright Moon Martial House, Spiritual Rhino Martial House, and Giant Elephant Martial House had obtained 3 spots each. The other 25 martial houses had obtained 2 spots, and only the Heavenly Star Martial House had obtained 1 spot. This was obviously a form of humiliation. What do you guys think we should do? Do we want this spot or not? Of course we want this spot. Don't tell me our Tensei Prefecture doesn't even have a spot. If word of this gets out, it'll be even more shameful. Song Qinglai couldn't help but feel a little angry. If we want this spot, isn't that the same as accepting their humiliation? What can we do? It's better than nothing. The more passive our Tensei Prefecture is, the more people will be waiting to see us make a fool of ourselves. How can we let them get what they want? If we can't get a fixed spot on the Sky list, then we'll try to get into the top 32 of the Earth list. Nice words, but last year only your direct disciple Xiao Yin made into the top 64. And this year you're telling me to try to get into the top 32? The white-haired elder seemed to be mocking himself. Song Qinglai frowned and continued. Last year, Xiao Yin met 2 strong opponents in a row, and that's why he was stopped in the top 64. But this year, Xiao Yan's strength is definitely much stronger than before. Also, Ji Xian, who's under instructor Xilan, and Bai Yue, who's under instructor Shadowless, didn't participate last year. Neither of them are weak. Last year, Xiao Yan first met Imperial Martial Academy's Tong Fei, and then he met Divine Rhino Martial House's Shen Yunxi. 2 battles in a row resulted in Xiao Yan's defeat at the hands of Shen Yunxi. As for Ji Xian, he didn't participate last year. At that time, he happened to be at a critical juncture of a breakthrough. After weighing the pros and cons, Xilan didn't approve of him participating, so Ji Xian missed last year's Academy Martial competition. Bai Yue was admitted to the hospital the year before last. In other words, at this time last year, Bai Yue had only entered Tensei Prefecture for less than a year. Because his strength was not very strong, he did not participate in the martial arts tournament. But later on, Bai Yue improved the fastest. Especially under Shadowless's guidance, Bai Yue was not inferior to Ji Xian and Xiao Yin. Stop arguing. Principal Jiang finally spoke. He heaved a deep sigh of relief. His eyes narrowed, and he said in a low voice, "The Heaven List candidate is Ji Xian, who works under tutor Xilan." The only spot on the Heavenly Board was given to Ji Xian. Everyone in the hall was slightly stunned. Of course, this decision wasn't unexpected. Also, I hope that in the next month or so, you core tutors will put in more effort to increase the strength of those little guys. Since we only have 1 spot on the Heaven List, there are still the top 36 on the Earth list. After so many years, it's time for us, Tensei Prefecture, to retaliate. Speaking of the excitement, Principal Jiang stood up from the wide chair. His pair of slightly cloudy old eyes were filled with sharpness. We old guys haven't reached the point where we can't move. How can we admit defeat? Principal Jiang's words immediately influenced all the elders and mentors who were present. Every one of their faces revealed a hint of emotion. Song Qinglai took a step forward and clenched his fists. I, Song Qinglai, guarantee that this year my disciple, Xiao Yin, will definitely make it to the top 32. Then, Tutor Shadowless also stood up. His usual playful expression became especially serious. He continued, I will do my best to help Yue increase her strength. I believe she can make it to the top 32. Very good. Principal Jiang nodded. As long as 2 people from our Tensei Prefecture make it to the top 32, then 3 people will enter the Heaven List. Who would dare to say that our martial house can't do it? All the elders and tutors couldn't help but clench their fists. Each of their eyes lit up with hope. At that moment, Xilan, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Her gentle voice contained a hint of determination. Aside from Ji Xian, there's another student under me. I believe that he'll be able to enter the heaven ranking. What? Everyone's hearts skipped a beat, and they all turned to look at Xilan in astonishment. The sun and moon rotated. Time passed one day at a time. The day of the Earth List tournament was getting closer and closer. The genius students of the various martial houses had entered the final stage of their sprint. Each of them put in more than 10 times the usual hard work to train. Chu Hen didn't come again? In the training field, Shilan looked helplessly at the dozens of direct disciples in front of her. Chu Hen hadn't appeared for a few days. There was no sign of him in the maple forest either. Tutor, someone saw Senior Chu Hen in the secret room of the quiet cultivation courtyard, Li Hui said. In the secret room of the quiet cultivation courtyard, Shilan was slightly surprised. Although she had doubts, she wasn't worried about Chu Hen. She didn't say much and started the last stage of training for everyone. The whole martial house was bustling with excitement. The whole city was bustling with excitement. Every year at this time, it was the busiest time in the imperial capital and even the entire Sacred Star dynasty. Seeing that the day of the Earth List tournament was getting closer and closer, the door of the secret room on the second floor of the quiet cultivation courtyard had never been opened. In the secret room, Chu Hen's entire body was covered with dark red bloodstains. After the dried bloodstains solidified, they covered Chu Hen's skin like a layer of wrinkled leather armor. At this moment, Chu Hen's breathing was even and his whole body was emitting an aura that was as steady as a mountain. Who knew that Chu Hen had been here for nearly a month, and there were only a few dozens of blood yuan fruits left? Buzz! Suddenly, an astonishing aura surged out from Chu Hen's body. In the next moment, the dried bloodstains covering Chu Hen's body directly cracked, forming crisscrossing cracks. Immediately, a majestic sound was set off in the air. A circle of vigorous golden zhen yuan spread out from Chu Hen's body like water ripples. The dried beast blood that stuck to the surface of his skin was immediately shattered into fragments that filled the sky. Phew! With an incomparably powerful aura, Chu Hen opened his eyes, and two beams of bright light shot out. At this moment, Chu Hen only felt that the true yuan in his Dantian sea of energy was as majestic as a surging river, and his whole body was filled with powerful strength. With a thought from Chu Hen, the torrent-like true yuan soared into the sky and filled the secret room. It had been 5 months since he returned from St. Bell City. Finally, he broke through again. This time, he directly skipped 8 levels and rushed to the 9th level of the elemental opening realm. Chapter 174. After 5 months, Chu Hen had finally made a breakthrough once again. This time, he directly skipped the 8th stage of the natal opening stage and rushed to the 9th stage of the natal opening stage in one fell swoop. Although the process seemed very simple, Chu Hen had been numb from the pain over the past month and had almost fainted countless times. He had clenched his teeth and persevered. While the flame energy contained in the astral fire sword tooth, rhinoceros blood strengthened Chu Hen's muscles and bones, only a few dozen blood yuan fruits remained. During this period of time, he had put in a lot of effort and resources, but the rewards made Chu Hen exceptionally happy. Buzz! With a thought from Chu Hen, a golden halo was released from his body like a flowing spring. The resplendent halo circled around his body and formed a flowing dark red, illusory flame. An extremely powerful force filled every inch of Chu Hen's muscles, flesh, skin, and bones. Even his skin faintly glowed with a golden luster. It looked as if Chu Hen was wearing a suit of holy light armor. The intersecting golden and red radiance was like the might of the sun from the 9 heavens. His entire body exuded a holy aura. Chu Hen slowly raised his right arm and clenched his fist. A resplendent light blossomed on his right fist like the radiance of the sun. The air could not help but tremble as waves of air trembled. A knowing smile involuntarily appeared on Chu Hen's face as he sensed that his power was several dozen times stronger than it was a month ago. Right now, he only wanted to test the power of the flaming sun body tempering technique as soon as possible and see how strong his body had become. Wei Qing fan, it's impossible for you to defeat me in 3 moves. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a cold intent involuntarily emerged from between his brows. Whoosh! when Chu Hen changed into a new set of clean clothes and walked out of the door of the secret cultivation room. The fresh air that he had not felt for a long time blew into his face. His mind was refreshed, and his eyes and ears were clear. The feeling was especially comfortable. Even though it was already winter, Chu Hen did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. The gorgeous sunlight poured down and shone on his handsome face, making him look somewhat transparent. In the past month, Chu Hen felt as if he had been reborn. Under the light, the side of his face was angular and slightly thin. But no one would have thought that this body, which was not very tall and sturdy, contained such an astonishing power. A moment later, Chu Hen arrived at the 7-star square. As far as the eye could see, the plaza was filled with people. The dense crowd surrounded a 7 to 8 meter tall notice board, and all kinds of noises rose and fell. "Senior brother, Chu Hen, have you come out of the secret training chamber?" Li Hui saw Chu Hen walking towards him from afar, and immediately ran towards him with a look of surprise. Zhou Lu, Mu Feng, and Lei Zhen also came along. "We were just talking about it. If you don't come out by tonight, Teacher Shilan is going to disqualify you from the competition." Chu Hen smiled embarrassedly. It seemed that it had been a month since he attended Teacher Shilan's lessons. "Is the Earth List battle tomorrow? What else do you think?" Mu Feng curled his lips, and his eyes were full of smugness. "Hee hee, you're lucky that you're not in the same division as me. Otherwise, hee hee, Chu Hen can even defeat Chengya." "Who do you think you are?" Zhou Lu said disdainfully. "What? Who does Chengya think he is? Do you believe that this handsome Feng can beat him with one hand? Io, you really know how to boast. Why don't you say that you can make it into the top 36 of the Earth List?" "Huh." Mu Feng smiled smugly. With one hand on his waist, he pointed at Zhou Lu and said, "What if this handsome Feng makes it into the top 36? Do you have the guts to let me touch your breasts? Although it's a little flat, it's still passable." "You?" Zhou Lu was so angry that her face turned red. Her eyes were about to spit fire. "Hee, how about it? Do you dare to bet with me? You want to make it into the top 36 with this kind of conduct? Just say it. Are you going to bet or not?" Zhou Lu was so angry that she couldn't vent her anger. She clenched her teeth and scolded hatefully. "Let's bet. Do you think I'm afraid of you? If you don't make it into the top 36, kneel on the ground and lick the soles of this lady's shoes." "No problem." Mu Feng agreed straightforwardly. Chu Hen, Li Hui, and Lei Zhen, who were at the side, were stunned by the domineering aura of the two people in front of them. They were really playing big. "Hee!" Mu Feng had a sneaky smile on his face. His small eyes stared at Zhou Lu's chest with a sneaky gaze, causing Zhou Lu to gnash her teeth in anger. She had the urge to cut him into 8 pieces. The few of them had black lines on their foreheads. They all secretly scolded Mu Feng for being shameless. Not to mention that he didn't have the ability to make it into the top 36. Even if he made it into the top 36, he still had the nerve to make a move. "Oh, right. What do you mean by the divisions?" Chu Hen had almost forgotten about the matter at hand. "Oh, yes." Li Hui raised his eyelids and said, "Senior brother Chu Hen, you were assigned to Division 224 in the Southern Domain outside the city." "Division 224 in the Southern Domain outside the city?" Chu Hen frowned. "How many divisions are there?" "More than 2,000 divisions." "More than 2,000? Chu Hen was obviously shocked. "That's right." Li Hui nodded and continued. "This year's martial competition is very different from the previous years, and the rules are completely new. The total number of people participating in the Imperial Capital's martial competition is more than 60,000. So, in the first round of elimination, more than 58,000 people will be eliminated." Hearing this, Chu Hen couldn't help but be extremely shocked. The scale of this event was truly huge. Continue. Because the number of participating students is too large, it's divided into 4 large divisions. They're respectively the Eastern Domain outside the city, the Southern Domain outside the city, the Western Domain outside the city, and the Northern Domain outside the city. These 4 large divisions are all places where the imperial family trains the guards. This time, We've obtained the imperial family's agreement to use them as the competition grounds for the first round of the martial competition. Li Hui licked his slightly dry lips and continued. In the 4 large divisions of the eastern, western, southern, and northern domains, there are more than 500 small divisions in each of the 4 large divisions. Over 30 participants are arranged in each small division, and there can only be one winner amongst these 30 participants. In other words, if one wants to advance to the first round of elimination, one must defeat all the opponents in the same division. Li Hui's explanation was very detailed. Naturally, Chu Hen also understood everything. In the 4 large divisions, there were a total of 2,000 divisions, and in each small division, only one person could win. And this person who won would advance to the first round and become one of the top 2,000 participants. Then what are the rules for the second round? Chu Hen asked. Li Hui shook his head. The rules for the second round have not been announced, but it said that it's much more cruel and difficult than the first round. However, Tutor Shilon only told us not to put too much pressure on ourselves and just to do our best. Chu Hen smiled. This was indeed Tutor Shilan's style. Although she usually didn't speak much, her words were filled with the care and concern of an older sister. Southern Domain Division 224, huh? Chu Hen first muttered to himself, then asked, "What about you guys? Which division are you in?" "I'm in East Domain number 103, Li Hui said. Mu Feng shrugged. "I'm in North Domain number 392. West Domain number 455. South Domain number 288. Zhou Lu and Lei Zhun also stated their division locations. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, looked at Lei Zhun, and said, "We're all in the Southern Domain." Lei Zhun grinned. This was the first time he had come into contact with the All-Academy Martial Tournament. He was excited, expectant, and a trace of timidity. He didn't know what it meant to compete with the geniuses of the other martial houses to advance. But Lei Zhun knew that this was a path that a powerhouse must take. "That's right, senior brother Chu Hen. There's something else I need to tell you. Senior brother Ji Xian has obtained our martial house's only heaven list ranking." Li Hui said. "Oh." Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and a cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Of course, this wasn't strange. As the number 1 on the Star Branch ranking, no one was more qualified than him to obtain a fixed spot on the heaven list. "What about senior brother Xiaoyan?" Chu Hen casually asked. Because he was Song Chunlia's direct disciple, he was a bit curious. The few of them looked at each other, and Li Hui's face revealed a faint bitter smile. "Not yet. Tensei Prefecture only obtained a heaven list ranking." Chu Hen nodded. There was no need to delve into this matter. In the evening, Tensei Prefecture suddenly became a lot more lively. All the students and mentors were called to the 7 Stars Plaza. On the plaza, wine jars were piled up like a small mountain. The plaza was filled with round tables, and the tables were filled with delicacies, wine, and delicacies. What's going on? Everyone looked at the scene in confusion. Subsequently, Song Chunlai, Shadowless, and the other elders and mentors arrived with Principal Jiang. Greetings to Principal Jiang. All the students from Tensei Prefecture bowed respectfully in unison. Principal Jiang waved his hand, and his voice was as majestic as a mountain. Tomorrow will be the first round of the Earth Ranking Tournament. The Academy will host a banquet here tonight to congratulate the students who are about to step onto the arena and return victorious. Boom! As soon as this statement was made, the entire place was filled with jubilation. No one expected Principal Jiang to do this. Needless to say, most of the students were touched. This kind of warmth could only be enjoyed in their own families. Students. Principal Jiang's slightly turbid but not imposing gaze swept across Ji Xian, Xiao Yin, Bai Yue, and the rest. Finally, his gaze stopped on Chu Hen. All of you are the hope of Tensei Prefecture. There are too many people who look down on our Sky Star Academy. But I want to say that I have never given up on this academy, and I have never given up on all of you. Chapter 175. The rock soared with the wind and soared 90,000 miles into the sky. The All-Academy Martial Meet was just around the corner. Principal Jiang's words had stirred up countless people in the Heavenly Star Martial House. This straightforward and unyielding old principal actually had the most sincere heart. No one saw the honor of the Heavenly Star Marshall House as important as him. This was a kind of responsibility. Tonight, the entire academy would dance and relax. Tomorrow, they would fight with all their might. That night, the students and mentors of Tensei Prefecture drank to their heart's content, dispersing the fatigue and tension that had accumulated in their bodies and minds over the past few months. However, since all the participating students had to wake up early the next day, Principal Jiang did not let them stay up too late. Starting in the evening, about 2 hours later, everyone dispersed and went back to rest as soon as possible to make their final preparations. The next day, when the first ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds and sprinkled onto the ground, the huge imperial city seemed to be shrouded in auspicious clouds. Woo! The long sound of a horn echoed from the tall buildings of the city gate, signaling the beginning of an extraordinary day. All the high-ranked martial houses were in an uproar. One after another, high-spirited and energetic young teams were ready to set off. At the main gate of Tensei Prefecture, the teams headed to the east, south, west, and north districts of the city had already lined up in neat rows. The team heading to the east district was led by Song Chunglai. The team heading to the south district was led by Shilon. The team heading to the west district was led by Shadowless. The team heading to the north district was led by Yu Yi. Is everyone here? Song Chunglia's voice was like thunder, especially loud and clear. Everyone is here. The students from the 4 teams answered in unison, all of them in high morale. Ah, good morale. Mentor Shadowless laughed heartily. He first glanced at Bai Yue and his team, then said to the others, "Brats, let me tell you a famous saying that I've created. In the competition, whoever dares to look down on us, who dares to bully us, who dares to provoke us, I have one word for this. Beat them up. Beat them to death." Yes, Mentor Shadowless. Everyone answered in unison. Song Chunglai nodded in satisfaction. His gaze was filled with hope as it swept across Xiao Yin, Bai Yue, and the other students. When he saw Chu Hen, the youngest among them, Song Chunglai couldn't help but recall what tutor Shilon had said that night in the conference hall. Among her students, other than Ji Xian, there was another one who had the strength to enter the top 36. At least she believed that. Today, Shilon was dressed in loose, light clothes, and her long purple hair was tied up. She looked very beautiful. She looked at Chu Hen, who was not far in front of her, and there was a hint of surprise between her thin eyebrows. With her eyesight, she could naturally tell that Chu Hen was different from a month ago. At this point, she was even more convinced of her previous thoughts. Everyone, Song Chunglai waved his hand and said in a clear voice, "I wish you all victory. Let's go." Depart. Immediately, under the lead of the 4 core mentors, the 4 teams set off in 4 different directions of the imperial capital. The vast team's morale was as high as a rainbow. At the same time, the other advanced martial schools in the imperial capital also set off for the 4 major regions. Although this was only the first round of elimination, no one would underestimate it. This year's competition was different from the previous years, but the one thing that didn't change was that only the strong had the right to speak. Chu Hen was in the team, led by tutor Shilon. He was surprisingly calm. Compared to Lei Jun, He Qingyuan, and the others beside him, it could be said that he wasn't affected at all. However, this calmness was only temporary. The moment he stepped onto the arena, the arrogance in Chu Hen's body would explode several times over. The journey took about 4 hours. Under Shilan's lead, the participating students from the Tensei Prefecture arrived at the Southern Region competition zone. In front of them was a vast forest that stretched as far as the eye could see, like a dark green ocean. The forest was connected to the mountains, and in the outer area of the forest, there was a vast plain. The plain was surrounded by towers, protective fences, and many large military tents. This area was originally the place where the imperial family trained the guards. It was temporarily used as the venue for the first round of elimination. In front of it, there were neat rows of silver-armored imperial guards maintaining order. In such a large area, a dense crowd had gathered. At this moment, The participating students from the various advanced martial schools had already arrived one after another. The 500 small competition zones were all set up in this vast and boundless area. The team from the Tensei Prefecture? When the crowd arrived outside the arena, a young guard in golden armor came to greet them. He looked at Shilan, who was leading the team, with a somewhat amazed look. Shilan, one of the four beauties of the imperial capital, had a head of long purple hair. This was something that everyone in the imperial capital knew. Therefore, the guard recognized her at a glance. Shilan nodded politely. When will the first round of elimination begin? About half an hour. The guard also replied politely. Thank you. Shilan responded softly, then turned to look at the young students and said, I'll see you off here. Everyone, go to your respective competition zones. As I said, just do your best. Yes, Instructor Shilan. The crowd responded in unison. Then, without any delay, entered the competition Zone 1 after another. There were 500 competition zones, so it still took time to find them. Instructor, do you have something to say to me? When Chu Hen turned around, he suddenly looked at Shilan and said. Shilan's beautiful eyes were filled with faint ripples. She gently shook her head and opened her red lips slightly. Be careful. These four simple words contained the concern of a family member. Chu Hen laughed heartily. I know, I won't let you down. After saying this, Chu Hen also followed the crowd into the competition zone. At this moment, the competition zone was already filled with the geniuses of the various martial houses. Each of them was young and vigorous, with outstanding grace and an extraordinary bearing. There were more than 60,000 participants in the four major domains, a total of 2,000 competition zones. In this southern region, there were 500 competition zones, each with more than 30 participants. At a glance, there was a sea of people. Junior Chu Hen, Junior Lei Jun, time is running out. Go find your own competition zone. If you miss the time, you'll be disqualified, He Qing Yuan warned. Okay. Chu Hen nodded, then immediately asked Lei Jun. Lei Jun, you'll be fine by yourself, right? Hee, don't look down on me. Although this is the first time I've seen such a grand scene, I won't get stage fright so easily. That's good. Then let's go. See you after the first round of the competition. Okay. Immediately, all the students from the Tensei Prefecture split up and went to find their own competition zones. There were road signs in this area, such as the direction from Competition Zone 1 to 100. After finding the direction, there would be more precise road signs. Chu Hen was in Competition Zone 224. According to the road signs, a moment later, Chu Hen arrived at the periphery of a forest. The structure and environment of the competition zones were also varied, but in this southern region, most of the forests were divided into competition zones. There was a road sign erected on the periphery of the forest, and the words Zone 224 were written in large, eye-catching red letters. And next to the road sign stood a middle-aged man in a green robe at his 30s. Zone 224? The middle-aged man glanced at Chu Hen and said, Yes, let me see the competition token. Chu Hen nodded and took out a small black plate. The name Chu Hen was written on the plate. This was given to him by instructor Shi Lan this morning. Every contestant would have this token. The middle-aged man glanced at the name on it, then took out a brush, ink, and a scroll. The scroll had the names of more than 30 people. Chu Hen's name was impressively among them. The man dipped the brush in black ink and made a tick next to Chu Hen's name, then said, Go to the 6th entrance and wait to enter. Remember, the area within the red line is the competition zone. Outside the red line, no one is allowed to go out. Once discovered, the contestant will be disqualified, understood? Chu Hen nodded. When a horn sounds, you can enter the competition zone. Apart from you, there will be 32 people entering this competition zone together. What you need to do is to get the flag that we placed in the competition zone from these 32 competitors. 32 competitors. Get the flag from the competition zone. And then, Chu Hen asked, after you get the flag, come back here. To put it simply, whoever can bring the flag here will advance to the first round. The middle-aged man paused, then said, There are a few points that I must emphasize. In the competition zone, You can use any method to deal with your competitors, but you cannot use talismans like the Spirit Fall talisman. Once found, the contestant will be disqualified. Chu Hen knew that the Spirit Fall talisman could not be used, not only this year, but in previous years as well. In the All-Academy tournament, items like the Spirit Fall talisman could not be used. Do you have any more questions? The middle-aged man asked. No. Then go to the 6th entrance and wait. Chu Hen nodded in agreement and headed to the 6th entrance according to the man's directions. It was also at this time that another 2 competitors arrived. The middle-aged man repeated what he just said to Chu Hen and had one of them go to the 7th entrance and the other go to the 8th entrance. Chapter 176. When Chu Hen found the 224th division, he registered with the person in charge and learned about the competition's arrangements. Then, he went to the 6th entrance. However, 2 more contestants arrived at this place. The middle-aged man repeated what he said to Chu Hen and asked them to go to the 7th and 8th entrances respectively. However, when Chu Hen turned to leave, he clearly felt an unfriendly gaze behind him that was like a hidden arrow. Chu Hen wrinkled his eyebrows and turned around to look. The first thing that entered his eyes was a pair of cold and gloomy eyes. It was a pale-skinned young man with an ordinary appearance. He stared coldly at Chu Hen without any hesitation. His cold eyes were full of provocation and mockery. Next to him was a man of about the same age. He looked at Chu Hen with a hint of disdain on his face. Since they were both competitors in the 224th division, it was normal for them to provoke each other before the competition began. However, since they were competitors, it was unreasonable for these 2 people to provoke Chu Hen alone. Then, the pale-skinned young man suddenly grinned. His cold smile was filled with ruthlessness. He raised his right hand and made a throat-slitting gesture toward Chu Hen. The meaning behind it was self-evident. However, Chu Hen's face revealed a disdainful smile in response to this sudden provocation. The 2 of them didn't stay there for long. They glanced at Chu Hen with indifferent eyes, then headed towards the entrance of the 7th and 8th competition area. Chu Hen raised his brows and shook his head with a faint smile. He left as well. Soon, Chu Hen found the 6th entrance of the 224th division. There was a signboard with the number 6 in the depths of the forest. The forest was dark and damp, and the air was filled with the smell of moist soil. 32 competitors. How strong would they be? Thinking back to the pale-skinned young man, based on the aura he exuded, his cultivation base should be half a step into the core transformation stage. His realm was slightly higher than Chu Hen's. Even so, the other party did not have any reason for Chu Hen to take him seriously. Of course, no matter what, there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the imperial capital. There were numerous geniuses and all sorts of formidable, abnormal, and monstrous geniuses. No matter who his opponent was, Chu Hen had to be 100% cautious. What a coincidence! Why are you here? Suddenly, a gentle female voice came from behind him. Chu Hen was stunned, and his thoughts were instantly pulled back to reality. He suddenly turned around, and a peerlessly beautiful, ethereal, and exquisite face entered his eyes. Miss Mengchong, Chu Hen blurted out in surprise. This person was none other than one of the imperial capitals for beauties, the most beloved student of Imperial Martial Academy's core instructor Red Lotus, Luo Mengchong. So you still remember me? Luo Mengchong said with a smile. Her bright eyes and white teeth made her look very attractive. Chu Hen also smiled and casually joked, "Of course I won't forget beautiful women. Aren't you afraid that your little girlfriend will be angry with you for saying such words?" Little girlfriend? Chu Hen was stunned. Where did he get little girlfriend? What's wrong? Didn't you give the blue bracelet you bought last time to your little girlfriend? Upon hearing this, Chu Hen immediately reacted and shook his head with a smile. You misunderstood. Yi Yao is my little sister. We came from the same place. The blue bracelet was a birthday gift for her. Oh. Luo Mengchong raised her eyebrows and nodded. I'm sorry. It's okay. All right. Are you also in the 224 division? Chu Hen stared at her. If she was in the same division as him, it would be a little awkward. To be honest, Chu Hen had a very good impression of Luo Mengchang. However, if the two were competitors, it would be a little troublesome. Yes, Luo Mengchang nodded without hesitation. Then, she opened her eyes wide and looked at Chu Hen expectantly. Can you give me the chance to advance later? Chu Hen was startled and revealed a difficult expression. You don't want to? Luo Mengchang's eyes were smiling. Her beautiful face was enough to bring disaster to a country in the future. If it was any other man, he would not refuse the other party's request. But to be honest, Chu Hen was really not willing to give up the only chance to advance to the next division to her. Seeing Chu Hen's hesitant look, Luo Mengchang waved her small hand and said with a smile, all right, don't make things difficult. I'm in the 223rd Division. I'm not with you, huh? 223, then why are you here? Look over there. Luo Mengchang pointed to an area behind her. Chu Hen looked over and saw that at the entrance of the jungle, there was also a sign with the eye-catching number 5 on it. Chu Hen was at the 6th entrance of the 224 Division, and Luo Mengchang was at the 5th entrance of the 223 Division. Coincidentally, the entrances of these two different divisions were so close to each other that the two of them met by chance. The two of them were not in the same division. Chu Hen was annoyed and amused at the same time. It turned out that the other party was teasing him. You scared me. I thought I'd have to compete with you for a spot. Luo Mengchang smiled. She then replied, by the way, how many hex runes did you obtain in St. Bell City last time? During the trip to St. Bell City more than 5 months ago, Wei Qing Fan, Shun Yunxi, Bai Yue, Long Xuan Xuang, and Yi Yao, these genius students all obtained a hex rune from the illusionary bell. Only Luo Mengchang and Chu Hen did not disclose the power they obtained. Why? Luo Mengchang's question was just a spur of the moment. I obtained... Not waiting for Chu Hen to finish speaking, a melodious and powerful horn sound instantly reverberated from far to near between the heaven and earth. As soon as the horn sounded, the entire venue of the Southern Region Tournament was set off in chaos. The mighty momentum was like the galloping of thousands of soldiers and horses. There were more than 15,000 contestants in the 500 competition zones, and they all rushed to their respective zones. The first elimination round has begun. Chu Hen clenched his fists and said solemnly. Luo Mengchang also nodded. Her red lips parted slightly, and she said with a faint smile, I hope to see you in the top 36. I'll do my best. All right, when we meet at that time, you have to give me the victory. Haha, definitely. Chu Hen nodded and smiled. After all, as long as he entered the top 36, he would obtain a spot on the heaven list. When the two of them met, even if Chu Hen gave the victory to the other party, it would not be a big problem. It would only affect his ranking on the Earth list. That's settled then. Luo Mengchang's lips curled into a charming smile. Then, her figure moved, and like a forest elf, she entered Division 223. And Chu Hen did not delay at all, directly entering Division 224 from the 6th entrance. The forest was especially quiet and dark, with towering trees and lush leaves. Chu Hen's feet did not touch the ground, but directly stepped on the branches of the trees and leaped forward. The young man's outline became more and more determined, and the previous relaxed look gradually disappeared. A trace of deepness gradually appeared in his pitch-black eyes. The first elimination round of the All-Academy Tournament and the Earth List Tournament had begun. Chapter 177. When the extremely loud sound of the horn reverberated in the area, the entire southern area of the city was in an uproar. The all-school martial competition, the Earth List Battle, the first elimination round, was about to begin. Swoosh. At this moment, Chu Hen had already entered the competition area 224 from the 6th entrance. The towering tree was lush with leaves. The air was filled with the damp smell of soil. Chu Hen's feet did not touch the ground, but directly stepped on the branches of the tree and leaped forward 32 competitors. Moreover, he did not know the specific strength of his opponents. This caused Chu Hen to raise his spirits and raise his vigilance. It was not enough to obtain the banner from the many competitors. He had to bring it out to qualify for the first elimination round. In other words, everyone he met in the next round would be his enemy. According to the description of the person outside, the banner is most likely placed in the central area of this competition area. The others must be rushing there as fast as they can. In this case, the best way is to act as the aureole. Chuhen's brain worked rapidly as he analyzed the current situation from all aspects. Chuhen could be considered to be relatively good at acting as the aureole. However, since he had this idea, naturally others also had the same idea. The corner of Chuhen's mouth involuntarily raised into a faint smile. In that case, he would first wipe out the mantis hiding in the back. Soon, Chuhen entered the depths of the competition area. The deeper he went, the taller the trees became. The lush forest was abnormally quiet. Swoosh! Suddenly, a swift and fierce wind-breaking force attacked without any warning. Chuhen's heart was slightly startled. He had actually exposed his target. He saw a cold arrow flying towards him like a meteor. The dark green arrowhead flickered with a dazzling luster, as if it had been tempered in venom. Chuhen's figure moved, and his body nimbly changed his movement trajectory in midair. That extremely powerful cold arrow streaked across the left side of his ribs, then dragged a powerful wave of air in the air, and then submerged into a towering tree behind him. Swoosh! In an instant, the towering tree, which required several people to encircle it, was directly penetrated by the arrow. A round hole as thick as a finger appeared on the trunk of the tree. What was even more shocking was that the tree was withering at an alarming rate. The lush branches and leaves that were as green as jade a second ago had turned yellow and withered in the blink of an eye. What a potent arrow poison! The corners of Chuhen's eyes narrowed, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. Even the trees couldn't withstand this poison. Once a human body came into contact with it, it would probably die in an instant. I have to be more careful. Swish, swish. Then, the enemy's second round of attacks came. It was still in the same position, but this time there were two arrows flying over. Compared to the previous arrow, not only was it more powerful, but it was also twice as fast. The powerful air wave swept through the air, and the space rippled with ear-piercing waves. Without saying another word, Chuhen leaped onto another large tree. As he dodged the attack, he hurriedly dodged to the back of the large tree. In the next second, Chuhen once again left his original position and steadily landed somewhere else. Boom! Just as Chuhen flashed away from his original position, the large tree from before was directly blasted into pieces by 3 arrows that flickered with golden light. The opponent had actually been lying in ambush here. Chuhen frowned. The opponent's strong killing intent was probably premeditated. Most likely, they were waiting here for him to appear, waiting to shoot arrows in the dark. The disadvantage for him was that this was a forest, which was the most suitable place for archers to hide in the dark and hunt targets. Moreover, Chuhen had already been exposed. If he didn't get close to the opponent in the shortest time, it would still be a little troublesome. Swish! With a flash, Chuhen directly flashed from the tree, trunk to the ground. If he moved in the air, it would be easier for him to become an archer's target. Don't think that you can dominate everything just because you have the upper hand. Chuhen's face revealed a trace of a mocking smile. Just as he was about to use his advantage in movement speed to approach the opponent step by step, he suddenly paused. Wait, it's not that simple. An even more serious thought sprang up in Chuhen's mind. His eyes slightly narrowed, and some coldness gushed out from between his brows. Then his figure moved and directly flashed out. Hee, hiding in the dark and shooting arrows, I'm coming to kill you. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Chuhen's voice fell, 3 incomparably hurried, wind-breaking sounds tore through the air. Wrapped in the golden light, the arrows were like flowing lights that traversed the night sky, and the awe-inspiring power and strong killing intent directly attacked Chuhen. It had to be said that the feeling of being a target was really extremely uncomfortable. It was suffocating to death. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long lost their mind. However, Chuhen's heart was especially calm. Great waterfall, mountain-destroying palm. Chuhen secretly shouted. His surging palm energy was like a flood as it poured out. A circle of unstoppable and vigorous palm energy set off a berserk shock wave as it headed straight for Chu-Hen. Bang! A series of 3 overlapping explosive sounds rang out, and the 3 arrows were forcibly shattered into pieces by Chu-Hen. The powerful shock wave directly swept past like a furious gale, and the dried branches and leaves on the ground were flattened and smashed into pieces. Even the surface of the soil was shaved off a thick layer. Oomph! With this level of archery strength, you still have the nerve to learn from others and launch a sneak attack. Chu-Hen wantonly ridiculed with a relaxed expression. However, as soon as his voice fell, a ghost-like black shadow suddenly scuttled out from the bushes at the side. Along with the wild wind, the other party directly leaped up, holding a shining broadsword in his hand, and slashed at Chu-Hen's head. Hee, with this little bit of intelligence, you still dare to speak so shamelessly here? The strange laughter was filled with thick complacency. This person was not someone else, but the pale-skinned young man who previously made a throat-slitting gesture in front of Chu-Hen. One could imagine that the sneak attacker hiding in the bushes and shooting arrows was most likely his companion who was previously with him. It turned out that from the beginning, the 2 of them had been lying in ambush here. One used a bow and arrow to restrict Chu-Hen's movements and also to attract his attention. And this fellow hid behind him, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Speaking of which, this kind of coordinated fighting style was considered a relatively brilliant method. The pale-skinned man instantly rushed in front of Chu-Hen, and a ferocious aura completely suppressed him. He raised the broadsword, and the surging true origin energy of a half-step core transformation stage quickly gathered on the blade. The resplendent light was unusually dazzling, as if it was soaked in the holy radiance of the 9 heavens' divine sun, and it was extremely unstoppable. Hee, go and meet the king of hell. Idiot. The other party's face was filled with a sinister and complacent smile. This slash was extremely fatal to any wuxio below the core transformation stage. However, there was not the slightest trace of panic on Chu-Hen's face. On the contrary, the corners of his mouth faintly revealed a faint smile of ridicule. In the next instant, he directly raised his left arm and blocked in front of his body. The pale-skinned man's smile became even more sinister. It was as if he could already see the miserable scene of Chu-Hen's blood splattering 5 steps away, and even his arm being chopped off. As expected of a foolish thing, using his hand to block the blade, he did not know what death was. Boom! In an instant, an extremely violent energy riot exploded in mid-air. The furious impact of the energy pressed down like a mountain, and the ground under Chu-Hen's feet instantly split open like a spider web. The powerful energy ripples spread in all directions like ripples on the surface of water. However, the pale-skinned man's eyes were wide open. The complacent smile on his face directly froze on his face, and it was replaced by a face full of horror. The imagined scene of Chu-Hen's blood splattering 5 steps away did not appear. Instead, his opponent unexpectedly used his arm to block the broadsword. The pale-skinned man's face was full of disbelief. He saw a layer of golden-red, illusory flame lingering around Chu-Hen's left arm. The illusory flame was like fire, and it was as pure and holy as a ray of light. Even Chu-Hen's skin faintly shone with a golden radiance. The blade that struck Chu-Hen's arm was not able to penetrate even the slightest bit, and it did not even cut the skin. Ding! Along with a crisp sound, the pale-skinned man's pupils instantly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and the broadsword in his hand immediately followed the sound and broke. How is this possible? The pale-skinned man's expression changed drastically, and he was greatly shocked in his heart. Not only was the full-powered attack of a half-step core transformation stage powerhouse not able to injure Chu-Hen in the slightest, but even the broadsword was broken. How could the opponent's physical body be so terrifying? Is it fun? Chu-Hen coldly laughed. In the next instant, Chu Hen directly punched out with his right fist, and an endless aura of death surged into the pale-skinned man's heart like a tide. With a muffled bang sound, blood splattered, and shattered internal organs splattered on the ground. Chapter 178. Hee, is it fun? A sinister sneer appeared at the corners of Chu Hen's mouth. With a loud bang, Chu Hen's right fist, which was surrounded by faint, illusory flames, directly smashed into the pale-skinned young man's chest. A warm rain of blood danced in the air, and shattered internal organs splattered all over the ground. Chu Hen's right fist had forcefully pierced through his opponent's chest. Half-step core transformation stage. Hee. Do you think you're that amazing? Chu Hen indifferently sneered. Endless pain spread to every corner of his opponent's body like a tide. The pale-skinned young man's eyes were wide open, as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. His face was filled with endless fear and disbelief. A half-step core transformation stage expert was actually killed by Chu Hen with a single strike. Even now, the other party did not dare to believe it. Regret, all kinds of regret. However, it was too late for regrets now. Along with the rapid loss of vitality, the other party unwillingly breathed his last breath and died with his eyes wide open. Swoosh! At this moment, the archers hiding in the dark launched another attack. A swift and fierce arrow tore through the air and flew toward Chu Hen. However, compared to the previous sneak attacks, the power and momentum of this arrow was simply too weak. It was no wonder that the other party felt this way. After witnessing his comrade being killed by a single punch from Chu Hen, even his legs had turned to jelly. It was already not bad that the person who was in a state of panic was still able to release an arrow. However, in Chu Hen's eyes, this arrow was like a chopstick thrown by a child. It did not pose the slightest threat. Did you not eat your fill? Chu Hen sneered and raised his hand to meet the incoming arrow with a punch. Boom! Along with an explosive sound, scattered true energy bloomed in the air. The moment the arrow came into contact with Chu Hen's fist, it directly exploded into pieces. Immediately after, a flurry of hurried footsteps could be heard from afar. In the depths of the forest, one could faintly see signs of leaves swaying. Escaped? Do you think you can escape? Chu Hen raised his brows slightly. He threw the pale-skinned young man aside and put his storage bracelet into his pocket. A half-step core transformation realm cultivator should have a lot of treasures. This could also be considered as spoils of war. It would be a waste not to take it. Immediately, Chu Hen's figure moved, and he directly chased after the other person who had escaped. Sha sha sha. A rustling sound echoed in the lush forest. A young man with a longbow in his hand and a quiver on his back was running around aimlessly in the forest. From his extremely panicked expression, it was as if he had experienced the most terrifying thing in his life. Swish! Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew past, and the bow-wielding man felt as if his feet were tripped by something. Then, he staggered, and before he could stand firm, he fell to the ground with his hands and feet propped up on the ground. Hee. I told you there was no need to be so courteous to me. A playful laugh followed, and the man's face instantly turned deathly pale. His body trembled violently, and even the bow in his hand fell to the ground. A few meters in front of him, Chu Hen was standing on a tree branch. His arms were crossed in front of him, and one of his hands rested on his chin. He had an indifferent smile on his face, as if he was a cat playing with a mouse. You? The young man's face changed drastically, and both his legs were trembling. The youth in front of him was as terrifying as a devil. Don't kill me. I beg you, don't kill me. The man felt that there was no hope of escaping, so he knelt on the ground with a plop. His eyes were filled with a pleading expression. Just now, he had personally witnessed his half-step core transformation realm companion being killed in front of him, and he had completely lost the will to resist. Swish! Chu Hen leaped up and steadily landed on the ground. Weren't you guys quite proud just now? Now you're acting like a coward? Don't kill me, Senior Brother Chu Hen. No, Master Chu Hen, please let me go. Huh? You know me? Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. He slowly approached the man, and his eyes were like torches, causing great psychological pressure to the man. It seems like the two of you discussed to ambush me here. I don't seem to have any enmity with the two of you. Even if we're competitors, there's no need for you to kill me, right? The man's expression became even more flustered, and his hands were trembling. Someone ordered you to kill me, right? It sounded like a question, but Chu Hen's tone did not show any doubt. The man's body trembled even more violently. If I tell you, will you spare me? You don't have the qualifications to negotiate. It's Wei Qing Fan. Last night, he found all of us in this competition zone and gave each of us 20 high-grade primal crystal stones. He also said that as long as anyone can kill you, they will be rewarded with a spirit weapon. As expected, it was Wei Qing Fan's doing. With regards to this, Chu Hen was not surprised at all. However, what made him dumbfounded was that the other party would actually use over 600 high-grade primal crystal stones as a deposit and a spiritual weapon as a reward to take his life. Chu Hen couldn't help but sigh. Just how much did Wei Qing Fan hate him? Why would he pay such a price to harm me? Of course, spirit weapons were also divided into different grades, and the spirit weapon that Wei Qing Fan opened was most likely at the bottom of the low grade. However, no matter how low-grade the spirit weapon was, it would still be a treasure that would make countless people's hearts beat faster and fight for it. Did all of you agree to Wei Qing Fan's request? Chu Hen questioned with some curiosity. The man clenched his fists tightly and nodded submissively. I'm sorry. I was confused for a moment. Please, bang. Before the man could finish his words, a violent impact with the force of a mountain struck his body. Chu Hen's aura was peerless. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were calm without a ripple. The man heavily fell to the ground. His sternum was completely shattered, and his internal organs were displaced. Large mouthfuls of blood continuously spurted from his mouth. His eyes were wide open, and his face filled with unwillingness and resentment was especially sinister. I forgot to tell you, my eyes can see through the thoughts of others. Chu Hen said indifferently. He then walked up to the man, raised his right foot, and stepped on the man's wrist. Then, he drew a sharp dagger from the man's sleeve. The man looked at Chu Hen as if he was looking at a monster. Then, his head tilted to the side, and the life in his eyes quickly disappeared. After killing 2 people in a row, Chu Hen's heart was surprisingly calm. Just now, the 2 people's attacks were fatal, especially the arrows that were coated with poison. One could imagine how sinister their intentions were from the beginning. Since they wanted his life, why should he be merciful? Wei Qing Fan, you're really generous. 32 people, 20 upper-grade primordial crystal stones as a deposit, which was a total of 640 primordial crystal stones. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth unwittingly curled into a sinister smile. In order to thank you for thinking so highly of me, I can't let you spend more than 600 upper-grade primordial crystal stones for nothing, right? Immediately, Chu Hen casually took the storage ring from a man on the ground. Then, he moved and continued to the depths of the competition area. The first elimination round of the All-Academy Martial Arts competition and the Earthless battle was on. However, there was a silent undercurrent in the 224th competition zone. A man with a sharp weapon in his hand was hiding in the bushes. His cold eyes were like a wolf waiting for its prey to take the bait. Hey, senior brother, why aren't you snatching the flag? Why are you hiding here? A hearty laughter suddenly came from a large tree behind him. The man with the cold eyes was shocked. He suddenly turned his head, but what he saw was a young and handsome face. Immediately, he was filled with hostility. Chu Hen, it's me. Chu Hen flipped his body and leaped to meet the man's incoming attack. He directly stepped on the man's weapon and raised his leg to kick the man's chin. Bang! A muffled tremor reverberated through the air. Chu Hen's seemingly simple kick actually contained a tremendous force. His opponent's jaw was directly smashed into pieces. Broken teeth mixed with fresh blood splattered and fluttered about. The man with the cold eyes silently fell to the ground. He did not even have the strength to stand up. The eighth, Chu Hen smiled knowingly. He nimbly took the man's storage bracelet and quickly disappeared into the forest. The entire process took less than 20 seconds. In the blink of an eye, the place returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. However, the man who was lying on the ground motionlessly was the best proof. Where did that bastard Chu Hen hide? Under a towering tree, long vines hung down from the trunk like giant forest pythons. A short man was hiding behind the giant tree. His eyes were cautiously watching his surroundings, and he was aware of the slightest movement in his surroundings. He was holding a tree root silver needle in his hand. The needle was dipped in a deadly poison that could seal the throat upon contact. Obviously, this was a participant who specialized in hidden weapons. Chu Hen, you deserve to be so unlucky. Of all people to provoke, you just had to provoke Wei Qingfan. Is Wei Qingfan someone you can casually provoke? The man muttered to himself as he waited. But this is also good. As long as you're injured by my soul-searching silver needle, you'll definitely die. When that time comes, I'll take your head to Wei Qingfan to exchange for a spirit weapon. It's fine if I don't want a first round of elimination. That's a good idea, but are your lousy needles really that powerful? Just at this moment, a frivolous laugh suddenly came from above the man holding the silver needle. Who's there? The man's expression changed. Before he could raise his head, a young face suddenly appeared in front of him. Haven't you been looking for me? Chu Hen hung upside down on the vines on the tree. Chu Hen. The man's pupil shrank. Without another word, he raised the silver needle in his hand and stabbed it towards Chu Hen. However, how could Chu Hen's speed be compared to his opponent's? Before his opponent could release the poisonous needle, Chu Hen had already grabbed his opponent's head with both hands and exerted force with his wrist. Crack! After a series of crisp sounds, his opponent's neck was directly twisted and his powerless body fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Sorry, I hate people who feed poison to hidden weapons. Swoosh! Chu Hen flipped over and landed firmly on the ground. Chapter 179. As time passed, the first elimination round of the All-Academy Martial Competition was in full swing. Geniuses from all walks of life were fighting for supremacy. In the various competition zones in the southern region of the city, there were constant sounds of violent collisions. The entire forest was in turmoil. Birds and beasts fled, and birds flew in fright. In each competition zone, there were more than 30 participants fighting for the promotion spots. However, the 224 competition zone was shrouded in a strange atmosphere. In the dark and gloomy, dense forest, a young figure was constantly moving like a ghost. Every time a heavy energy explosion was set off in the air, a contestant would be sent flying out. Then, the other party generously took away the storage treasures of the defeated participant and quickly moved to the next battlefield. Bang! A majestic force that was like a mountain pressed down wantonly. A panic-stricken and miserable figure was dragged on the ground for dozens of meters before stopping. A large area of vegetation in front of him was flattened. The person who was attacked tilted his head and fainted without a sound. The 20th, this is really physical work. I'm exhausted. Chu Hen casually wiped away the few drops of sweat on his forehead. From just now, he had been continuously counterattacking the competitors that were hiding in this area. He had searched every inch of the area, no matter who he met. Without saying anything, Chu Hen directly attacked. After finishing off his opponent, he took the storage treasure and left. In about an hour or so, Chu Hen had directly taken care of 20 opponents. This kind of efficiency could really be considered extremely fast. However, it took a lot of time to search for the enemies he had just defeated. This also meant that the remaining 12 people were hiding in a more secluded place. Although this was the first elimination round of the Earthless tournament, the participants in this competition zone were still thinking about the bait that Wei Qingfan had offered. As long as anyone could kill Chu Hen, they would be able to obtain a spiritual artifact. To countless people, a spiritual artifact was an irresistible temptation. It was fine to give up a spot in the first elimination round since there was still a chance next year. However, a spiritual artifact would not wait for anyone. There are still 12 people left. Where will they hide? Chu Hen casually took off the storage belt of the person by his feet and thought to himself. Suddenly, Chu Hen's heart lit up, and his handsome face revealed an expression of sudden enlightenment. Why am I so stupid? I didn't even think of such a simple logic. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold glint flashed across Chu Hen's eyes, and he waved his hand. Swish! A black air blade that was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, along with the rapid trembling of the air waves, directly cut a 20-meter-tall tree in half. The tree fell heavily to the ground, and behind it, a horrified and familiar figure was immediately exposed. Senior apprentice Brother Renwei, what a coincidence. You're in the same division as me? A frivolous smile hung on Chu Hen's face. The other party was Renwei from Tifeng Province. Ever since the Star Elite competition and the St. Bell City tribe, there had been many grudges between Renwei and Chu Hen. Renwei had repeatedly wanted to kill Chu Hen, but at this moment his face was as pale as a sheet, and his hands and feet were faintly trembling. What do you want? Renwei clenched his fists and said in a deep voice. Nothing. I just want to ask you, why have you been hiding here all this time? Do you want to directly give me a fatal blow when I'm not on guard? Chu Hen said with a faint smile. No. Renwei tried his best to calm himself down. I'm just participating in the first elimination round, and I don't want to compete with you for a promotion spot. Renwei tried to make his tone sound weak so that Chu Hen would not make things difficult for him. He knew very well that it was impossible for him to fight against Chu Hen alone. Oh, so Senior Apprentice Brother Renwei is only participating. Chu Hen raised his handsome eyebrows and said with a faint smile, But I want to ask you, have you received Wei Qingfan's killing deposit? Killing deposit? The moment these words left his mouth, Renwei's face immediately turned pale. His eyes were filled with shock as he narrowed his eyes. The smile on Chu Hen's face grew wider when he saw Renwei's panicked expression. So Senior Apprentice Brother Renwei has already received Wei Qingfan's killing deposit. What do you think I should do? Renwei's body trembled as he clenched his fists. His heart hardened, and a surging aura directly erupted from his body. Swoosh! In an instant, 5 golden chains shot out simultaneously, and without the slightest bit of restraint, they flew towards Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen stood where he was and let the 5 chains wrap around him tightly like pythons. In just a blink of an eye, Chu Hen was tied up by the 5 chains. Apart from his head, the rest of his body below his neck was tied up by the sturdy chains. One hit was effective. Renwei was overjoyed. He did not expect to succeed so easily. Looks like you're only SOSO. Renwei's eyes turned cold. He did not remember the time when he was beaten to the ground by Chu Hen twice in St. Bell City. His body moved and charged toward Chu Hen at his fastest speed. A domineering and violent palm force swept out directly toward Chu Hen's head. Stinking brat, go to hell. Senior Apprentice Brother Renwei is getting more and more powerful. Along with Chu Hen's faint mocking smile, in the next instant, a golden light as bright as the sun suddenly erupted from his body. A beautiful golden-red ring of light, with Chu Hen as the center, spread out in all directions. A fierce wind suddenly rose, and a surging power swept out. Boom! A loud, heavy sound reverberated, and the leaves of the surrounding trees rustled and fell. The chains that bound Chu Hen's body exploded into countless pieces that danced wildly in the air. Renwei's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip. Before his attack could land on Chu Hen, a powerful shockwave came whistling over. Renwei was directly sent flying. Before he could smash on the ground, Chu Hen flew up and kicked the other party's lower abdomen. The intense pain caused Renwei's eyes to split open, and he almost drooled. Bang! Chu Hen's kick directly sent Renwei into the mud more than 10 meters away. Renwei was immediately dyed into a mudman. He could not care less about the mud on his face and body. Enduring the pain in his body, he staggered to his feet and fled in a direction. Run faster. Senior Apprentice Brother Renwei, if I catch you, I'll break the tendons in your arms and legs first." Hearing the frivolous laughter coming from Chu Hen behind him, Renwei lost his head out of fear. He was out of his wits and ran away like a stray dog. At this moment, he was shocked, angry, and regretful. His heart was filled with resentment and hatred. He did not expect Chu Hen to know that Wei Qingfan had bribed everyone in this competition zone to kill him. Renwei, who had a lot of enmity with Chu Hen, happened to be assigned to this area. Renwei naturally fully agreed with the plan to kill Chu Hen. Of course, Renwei also knew that he was no match for Chu Hen. Therefore, when the first elimination round began, Renwei had been looking for other contestants, thinking of forming a team with them to kill Chu Hen together. When the time came to exchange the spirit weapon from Wei Qingfan, they would discuss how to distribute it. However, to Renwei's surprise, before he could complete his idea of forming a team, he happened to meet Chu Hen. Hiding in the dark, Renwei did not dare to make a sound after seeing Chu Hen easily kill the contestant in front of him. He could only continue to hide in the same place. However, Chu Hen still found him. After fighting, Renwei finally understood the extent of the gap between him and Chu Hen. Run. Renwei had no other choice but to run. He, senior apprentice brother Renwei, your footsteps are not fast enough. Not long after, Chu Hen appeared on a big tree on the right in front of him. His mocking smile made Renwei's scalp tingle. Renwei's body trembled, and he hurriedly ran to the other side. Swoosh! Soon, Chu Hen's ghost-like figure blocked in front of his opponent again. His lazy expression was like a cat playing with Housie. Renwei gritted his teeth, staggered a few times, and hurriedly fled in another direction. Was it because his will to live was too strong, or was there another reason? After being blocked by Chu Hen 5 or 6 times, Renwei finally got rid of him. However, he still did not dare to be careless and continued to run forward. Right now, he only wanted to get to the outside of the competition area as soon as possible, forfeit, and leave. However, just a second ago, when Renwei passed through a shrub, a young figure flashed out from behind a big tree. Looking at the direction in which the other party fled, a faint smile appeared on Chu Hen's lips. Finally in the right direction, rustle, rustle. Frantic footsteps shuttled through the forest, causing the leaves to rustle continuously. Renwei walked forward aimlessly, wanting to return to the outside of the competition area. However, he realized that he was walking deeper and deeper, and in the end, he even lost his way. That is, Renwei's heart suddenly skipped a beat. 100 meters in front of him, there was a relatively spacious open space. Gentle sunlight shone through the treetops, and on the open space, there was a 2-meter-tall red flag gently fluttering in the wind. On the flag, there was a word Earth. Earth? The Earth List Battle. Is this the flag for advancement? Why am I here? Renwei suddenly stopped in his tracks, and then he subconsciously touched his face. A thick layer of dry mud almost covered his face. Then, a thunderous shout came from the back of the forest. Chu Hen, you little thief, you can't escape. What? The deep voice was like a boulder being thrown into a calm water surface, causing 1,000 ripples. In the next moment, Renwei's heart suddenly trembled. A thick sense of danger swept towards him from all directions like a tide.